Qin Hao entered the cafe but didn't see his wife, which immediately put him in a bad mood. He had thought Wanna had gone back to the restroom in his office to sleep and was already eager to wrap up the meeting and work early so he could find his wife and take her home. Chapter 523, Seeing Wanna. Qin Hao, accompanied by the senior executives from the project department, frowned as they walked to the center of the crowd. The people following behind also wore puzzled expressions. The sudden arrival of so many high-ranking figures made everyone tense, and the atmosphere grew even quieter in an instant. As Qin Hao approached, he spotted the brainless intern from the morning, her face swollen and red. His frown deepened, not out of sympathy, but because he was annoyed that this person was causing trouble again. He also noticed Ding Chen, a longtime employee from the project department who often hung out with Wanna, standing there with a stern expression. These two were clearly the main figures in the incident. Qin Hao asked sternly, "What's going on?" Chen Qianqian spoke up first, and as soon as she started talking, tears began streaming down her face, making her look pitiful. "Mr. Qin, it was Sister Ding Chen who hit me." Qin Hao frowned deeply, glancing at the red and swollen half of Chen Qianqian's face where a palm print was still clearly visible. He then turned to look at Ding Chen. Ding Chen immediately admitted frankly, "Mr. Qin, I was the one who hit her. I am willing to accept the company's punishment." Seeing her admit it voluntarily, Chen Qianqian couldn't hide the smugness in her eyes. She glanced lightly at Ding Chen, as if to say, "Just wait to be fired by Mr. Qin." The onlookers were all her witnesses, having seen her get hit. She wouldn't let this slap go to waste. Since Ding Chen had admitted it and was willing to accept punishment, Chen Qianqian was certain that Ding Chen would definitely be fired. Ding Chen had no intention of explaining herself. In her mind, she had indeed hit someone, and everyone had seen it. She believed in taking responsibility for her actions and would never deny it. Moreover, she would never stoop to distorting the truth with poor acting skills like Chen Qianqian. That drama queen, Tang Wanna, was blocked at the very back and couldn't see Qin Hao's expression. She only heard Ding Chen admit that she was the one who hit someone and was willing to accept punishment. Feeling anxious, she was about to ask everyone to make way so she could step forward and explain the situation at the time, suggesting to check the surveillance footage. Her intuition told her that Chen Qianqian had intentionally splashed her. The project manager cleared his throat lightly at this moment and explained to Qin Hao again, "President Qin, there might have been some misunderstanding between the two. Chen Qianqian accidentally spilled coffee on Ding Chen's friend, and Ding Chen might have acted out of urgency and resorted to physical confrontation. How about I take both of them back to the office to clarify the whole story, and then report the handling result to you afterward?" The project manager's words actually showed some bias toward Ding Chen, as he intended to quickly downplay the matter and resolve it quietly. After all, both of them are members of the project team, and continuing to make a scene here would not look good. Upon hearing this, Chen Qianqian felt quite displeased. She had gone through great lengths to create this opportunity and had even been slapped. How could she just let it go? Once back in the office, the manager would likely smooth things over with his typical peacemaking approach, and she absolutely could not allow that to happen. Chen Qianqian deliberately intensified her ongoing sobs and said, "President Qin, it's fine. I'll accept whatever decision the manager makes. It's just that my face is badly swollen, and my head hurts a little. I might need to go to the hospital for a checkup." Chen Qianqian made her slap sound very severe and, by adopting a humble stance, subtly implied another meaning. Despite being hit, she might face unfair treatment because Ding Chen is a long-term employee of the company. With this single statement, she effectively thwarted the project manager's intention to downplay the incident. Qin Hao silently raised his head and glanced at Chen Qianqian, whose face wore an extremely aggrieved expression. While inwardly she was secretly rejoicing, Qin Hao suddenly turned to Ding Chen and asked, "Is Wanna here?" His seemingly out-of-the-blue question left everyone visibly stunned for a moment. Only Ding Chen and the project manager immediately realized who Qin Hao was referring to, while the others hadn't expected that the Wanna mentioned by President Qin was actually his wife, Tang Wanna from the project department. Ding Chen gave Qin Hao a slight nod. then glanced toward the back of the crowd, also searching for Wanna's figure. Following her gaze, Chin Hao could vaguely make out half of the young girl's head. He hurriedly strode over, and as he approached, the crowd automatically parted to both sides, forming a human corridor. At the end of the corridor, Tang Wanna stood there with a radiant smile, looking at Chin Hao as he walked toward her. Though the coffee stains on her clothes made her appear somewhat disheveled, after confirming her location, Chin Hao took a few large strides forward. At a glance, he noticed the coffee stains all over the clothes she had worn to have lunch with him earlier. As he had suspected, the friend Ding Chen mentioned who had been splashed with coffee was none other than his own Wanna. Chin Hao approached and circled Tang Wanna several times, pulling her aside as he anxiously asked, "Are you okay? Are you hurt? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" Tang Wanna shook her head at him. She had indeed been frightened earlier, but her body was fine, the baby was fine, and she didn't feel any discomfort. By then, some of the senior employees in the crowd had already recognized Tang Wanna as President Chin's wife. Especially the executives from the project department who had just attended the meeting with her, they all recognized her. Only a few new interns didn't know who she was and were whispering among themselves, quietly inquiring about her identity. When they learned she was President Chin's wife, they were all so shocked that their jaws dropped and their eyes widened. So the one who had just been splashed with coffee was actually President Chin's wife. The project manager was also shocked. Who could tell him what was going on? Why had no one mentioned earlier that Wanna was also in the coffee shop? And that she had been splashed with coffee all over? The project manager leaned closer to Ding Chen and whispered, "Did Chen Qianqian just splash coffee on Wanna?" Ding Chen looked at Chen Qianqian's pretentious face, still feigning innocence, and couldn't hold back his anger. "Yeah, otherwise. Do you think I would have wanted to hit her?" The project manager nodded. "Well, this has completely pissed off President Chin." Chen Qianqian was still secretly gloating. She hadn't overheard those whispers, especially since the people discussing it were standing quite far away. The executives around her wouldn't directly tell her, "The person you just splashed coffee all over is President Chin's wife." Chen Qianqian was still waiting for Chin Hao to announce the good news that Ding Chen would be fired immediately. She watched Chin Hao quickly walk towards the pregnant woman who had been with Ding Chen earlier, the one whose belly she had used as a tool to spill coffee on, and felt a brief pang of guilt. However, she quickly composed herself. As a leader, it was only natural to greet guests on her own turf, but she sensed that President Chin seemed particularly tense around her. Could it be that she had guessed wrong? Chapter 524, Publicly Fired. Chin Hao repeatedly confirmed that Wanna was truly unharmed, not scalded by the coffee, not affected in terms of the baby, with no injuries to her hands or legs, before he finally let out a huge sigh of relief. Heaven knows how worried he had been the moment he thought the person splashed with coffee might be her, and when he finally confirmed that she was indeed here and had been drenched in coffee by an intern. How anxious and frightened he had felt. He even blamed himself incessantly in his heart. Why hadn't he come a step earlier? Then she wouldn't have been hurt. Why hadn't he made time to come to the cafe with her? After all, she had told him she wanted to eat a small cake. Now that it's confirmed she's okay, he's still shaken, filled with lingering fear, unable to imagine what would have happened if that cup of coffee had been scalding hot and had been splashed all over her. Tang Wanna noticed his consistently gloomy expression and obvious displeasure. She took his hand, gently stroking it, and whispered in his ear in a coquettish tone, "Husband." Chin Hao's eyes instantly turned red. Thankfully, his Wanna was safe. Chin Hao turned his head to look in the direction where Chen Qianqian was standing, and his gaze instantly turned fierce. He first settled Tang Wanna on the sofa, then called his secretary's office upstairs. Asking Sister Zhao to send someone down to escort Tang Wanna upstairs and to go out and buy a new set of clothes. After arranging everything, he turned and strode back to the previous spot. Everyone else was still standing there waiting. The project team members who had been in the meeting didn't dare to leave first. While the others were waiting curiously for the outcome, Chin Hao walked up to Chen Qianqian and, without any unnecessary words, straightforwardly said to her, "From this moment on, you are fired." He then turned to the crowd of onlookers and asked, "Is anyone from the Human Resources Department here?" A young man in the crowd timidly raised his hand and said, "Mr. Chin, I am from the Human Resources Department." "Good. Tell your director to process her paperwork immediately and report to my office once it's done." "Yes, Mr. Chin." The young man quickly contacted their director to inform them of the matter. After Chin Hao finished his brief remarks, he prepared to leave. It was only then that Chen Qianqian snapped out of her daze and rushed forward, grabbing Chin Hao's sleeve. "Mr. Chin, you must have made a mistake. I'm the victim here. My left cheek is swollen from being hit, and everyone saw it. Why am I the one being fired? It should be Ding Chen who gets fired." Chin Hao lowered his head and glanced at his sleeve being grabbed, then shot a sharp look over. Chen Qianqian was so frightened that she trembled and quickly let go of her hand, stammering, "I'm sorry, President Chin. I hope you can handle this matter fairly. You can't just favor Sister Ding Chen because she's a senior employee." Her unfinished words seemed to imply, both overtly and covertly, that Chin Hao was being unfair, that she was the one who got hit, yet she was the one being fired. She had worked so hard to secure this internship opportunity. How could she possibly give it up so easily? "It's not your place to tell me how to do things," Chin Hao said bluntly. "Since you want to handle this by the book, let's call the police. You intentionally spilled coffee on my wife, and I choose to pursue legal action against you. I will sue you for intentional assault. There are surveillance cameras in the cafe, and the footage will be provided to the police." After speaking coldly and sternly, he turned to everyone and said, "Let's disperse. Go back and get ready. The meeting will resume in 20 minutes. With that, he prepared to return to his office. He had seen that Sister Zhao had already taken Wanna upstairs, and he didn't want to waste any more time here. When Chen Qianqian heard Chin Hao mention his wife, she was completely stunned. She stood frozen in place, muttering to herself, "His wife? It was actually President Chin's wife. I thought she was a business partner. How could she be President Chin's wife?" As if possessed or driven mad, she staggered backward several steps before steadying herself. "It's impossible, impossible. It can't be President Chin's wife. I don't believe it." The project manager glanced at her, sighed, and shook his head. Then he followed Chin Hao, preparing to leave the cafe together. He had originally thought quite highly of Chen Qianqian. She had studied abroad at a prestigious university and had solid professional knowledge. He had even considered grooming her for advancement, but he had just heard this morning that the young woman had some questionable behavior. And now in the afternoon, she had caused such a scene. There was no way he could keep her around. Ding Chen glared at her deeply and was about to leave as well. However, Chen Qianqian, as if gone mad, suddenly blocked Ding Chen and said viciously, "You did this on purpose, didn't you? You knew all along that she was President Chin's wife. So you deliberately let me mistake her for a business partner. You intentionally made me spill coffee on her, just so President Chin would get angry and fire me. This was all part of your plan, wasn't it?" Chen Qianqian was hysterical, completely losing her composure. Ding Chen shook off her arm and said, "I suggest you see a doctor if you're sick. After all, your delusions and paranoia are far from ordinary. I don't have as many petty thoughts and schemes as you do to stir up trouble. How to deal with you isn't my decision, so there's no need for you to bark at me. Do you dare say you don't have those dirty thoughts about President Chin? Don't assume everyone is as filthy-minded as you just because your own thoughts are dirty. Take a good look at yourself in the mirror. You're not even 1/10,000th as good as President Chin's wife, and you actually think you can seduce him, huh?" Ding Chen went all out, full of fighting spirit. Not even pausing for breath, she forced Chen Qianqian to retreat step by step. After firing off a series of sharp retorts, she turned around and left with a flourish. Chen Qianqian stood there, watching Ding Chen's retreating figure, and let out a furious scream. There was no trace of her usual smug urban white-collar demeanor left. Ding Chen, stop right there, you wretched bitch, I'll fight you to the death." Ding Chen heard the cursing from behind but didn't pause her steps for even a moment, completely ignoring Chen Qianqian. The corners of her lips lifted slightly, clearly in a very good mood. The shortened turn who was with Chen Qianqian still had some sense of loyalty. She quickly grabbed the somewhat out-of-control Chen Qianqian and said, Qianqian, Calm down, stop fighting with Sister Ding Chen. You should think of a way to beg President Qin or his wife. Do you really want to be fired and then go to jail? Chen Qianqian slowly calmed down after hearing her words. Of course I don't want to go to jail, and I don't want to be fired either. If I get fired and go to jail, my life will be ruined. But what else can I do? She felt utterly lost. Thinking about Qin Hao mentioning there was surveillance footage, she belatedly began to panic. Could it really have been recorded? She truly didn't know that was President Qin's wife. She didn't want to be fired, let alone go to jail. Chapter 525, Pleading for Mercy. Chen Qianqian seemed to instantly lose all her radiance, collapsing dejectedly into the chair with a dazed look in her eyes. The side of her face that had been slapped by Ding Chen was still red, swollen, and raised high, leaving her in an utterly wretched state. Her eyes were vacant as she stared ahead, muttering to herself, "What should I do? What should I do?" as she murmured. Tears unconsciously streamed down her face. The short intern who was with her didn't know how to comfort her either. "Qianqian, are you okay?" Chen Qianqian turned to look at her, her eyes frighteningly red. "What should I do? I don't want to go to jail. I really can't go to jail, and I can't lose this job either. Maybe you should go find President Qin and sincerely apologize to his wife. At the very least, let's resolve the issue of the police report and potential jail time first," the short girl suggested. By now, she was certain that everything Chen Qianqian had previously told her about having a special relationship with President Qin was completely fabricated. President Qin clearly didn't know her well at all. Moreover, when she had just seen President Qin looking at his wife, his eyes were full of light, and his entire demeanor was completely different from when he faced employees. That kind of worry and tension didn't seem like that of a man who would be unfaithful to his family. So, she was quite sure that everything Chen Qianqian had told her before about President Qin treating her specially, always calling her into his office alone, was all made up by Chen Qianqian herself. And now she also realized that Chen Qianqian had no say in who would stay after the internship ended. She couldn't even guarantee her own position %E3%, 80%, 82, let alone secure a spot for someone else. However, since she started her internship, she hasn't made any friends. Sometimes she is aware that Chen Qianqian is using her to highlight her own superiority and to help with her work, but after all, they have known each other for a while. She genuinely thought that only by apologizing and asking for forgiveness would there be room for reconciliation, and she sincerely offered her advice. Chen Qianqian suddenly stood up, as if snapping back to reality, and muttered, "Yes, yes. I'll go beg President Qin. I'll go beg Mrs. Qin. I'll go find them right now. I can't go to jail. I can't be fired." As she spoke, Chen Qianqian stumbled and ran out of the room. When Qin Hao returned to the office, Tang Wanna had just finished showering and was changing clothes in the lounge. When Sister Zhao received Qin Hao's call, she immediately rushed downstairs herself to bring Tang Wanna back upstairs. When she got the call, she was momentarily stunned. Guessing that something must have happened, she didn't expect to see Wanna covered in coffee stains when she arrived at the cafe. Her heart sank, and she quickly walked over, asking in a low voice, "Wanna, are you okay? Who did this to you? Come on, let's go upstairs and change into clean clothes." Tang Wanna left the cafe first with Sister Zhao, confident that third brother would handle things on Ding Chen's end. As she walked, she smiled faintly and said, "An intern accidentally spilled coffee on me." Sister Zhao frowned slightly. "An intern? One or two of the interns in this batch are really quite careless. Did it get on your stomach?" Sister Zhao didn't yet know that the intern Tang Wanna mentioned was Chen Qianqian. She had hurried in earlier, taken Tang Wanna, and rushed out without seeing what had happened in the cafe. After all, President Qin had personally instructed her to take Wanna upstairs to change clothes. And she didn't dare delay. "No, it just got my clothes wet, which is a bit uncomfortable," Tang Wanna said. "All right, go wash up quickly. The clothes will be here soon," Sister Zhao said. She led Tang Wanna to Qin Hao's office and then stepped out. Shortly after, a young woman from the secretarial office came in with a bag containing freshly purchased clean clothes. After thanking her, Tang Wanna went straight into the restroom. She plans to take a shower first before changing her clothes. Otherwise she always feels uncomfortable. Fortunately, Third Brother's lounge is fully equipped and very convenient. Just as she finishes her shower and is getting dressed, she hears someone open the door and walk into the outer office. She knows it's Third Brother, because no one else would barge directly into his office. The footsteps outside sound hurried and quickly approach the door of the lounge. At the same time, an anxious voice calls out, "Honey," hearing Third Brother's voice. Tang Wanna can't help but break into a happy smile. "I'm in here," she replies loudly. As soon as she answers, the door to the lounge is pushed open by Chin Hao. Tang Wanna had just finished getting dressed. The maternity wear she was wearing was from the same brand as the one that had been stained by coffee, both made of pure cotton, which she preferred, soft and very comfortable to wear. The style the young lady from the secretarial office had bought was quite similar to what she had worn before, and Tang Wanna was quite pleased with it. Chin Hao walked up to Tang Wanna, catching the familiar scent of shower gel, and asked gently, "Did you take a shower?" "Yes, I felt a bit uncomfortable, so I took a quick shower," Tang Wanna replied with a light nod. You smell lovely. I should have come up earlier. The bathroom floor is a bit slippery." Chin Hao was still quite concerned. "I'm very careful." "It's fine, don't worry." Tang Wanna looked at Chin Hao with a smile. Having just taken a bath, her little face was flushed like a delicate rose, tempting one to pluck it. Chin Hao leaned over and kissed her on the cheek. "Did you enjoy the little cake earlier? Should I have someone bring up 2 more pieces?" "No. I've already had 2 pieces. If I eat any more, I'll really turn into a pig." Tang Wanna stuck out her tongue and shook her head in refusal, then rolled her eyes and added, "Why don't you bring 2 pieces back after work? We can have them tonight." She couldn't eat any more now, but they'd make a good midnight snack. Chin Hao curled his lips into a smile upon hearing this. "All right, I'll pack 2 pieces to take home after work. Get some rest for now. I'll wake you up after the meeting. And we'll head home, Tang Wanna nodded with a smile, then let out a perfectly timed yawn. Chin Hao helped Tang Wanna lie down on the bed, covered her with the blanket, and adjusted the room temperature. Tang Wanna lay on her side, smiling as she looked at Chin Hao, and finally asked, "Third Brother, are you really planning to call the police?" She had heard it when she left the cafe. Chin Hao sat on the edge of the bed, reached out his hand, and gently stroked Tang Wanna's forehead and cheek with a tender and caring expression. He didn't answer immediately, remaining silent for a while before saying, "Yes, that was the plan up until this moment. But our Wanna has such a kind heart. I'm sure you've softened." Chin Hao knew Tang Wanna all too well. The little girl must have thought calling the police on an intern who hadn't even officially graduated yet was a bit too harsh. Hearing Chin Hao's words, Tang Wanna curled her lips into a smile. "I was just asking. I haven't softened at all. That person had been spying on her husband and even splashed coffee on her. How could she possibly feel soft-hearted?" "Then I'll call the police," Chin Hao said, taking out his phone to make the call. "Oh, wait a moment. Why don't we think about it again?" Tang Wanna reached out and grabbed Chin Hao's arm. "It seems like calling the police might be a bit too serious. How about we just handle it according to the company's rules? Let's consider it as accumulating blessings for the little one." "All right, I'll listen to you, dear." Chin Hao lowered his head and kissed her forehead. "Then let's accumulate blessings for the little one." Chapter 526. Handling according to company regulations. Speaking of calling the police, Tang Wanna suddenly thought of something while lying in bed. She tugged at Chin Hao and asked, "Honey, was there really a surveillance camera in the cafe that happened to capture our spot?" She was a bit curious. How did Third Brother's thoughts align so closely with hers? She had only speculated about it, originally intending to scare Chen Qianqian, but it turned out there actually was one. "No," Chin Hao replied. "Then how would we provide evidence if we really called the police?" Tang Wanna widened her eyes, both shocked and puzzled. For such a minor matter, without evidence, calling the police probably wouldn't be of any use. If we really wanted to get her detained, there are plenty of ways to keep her from getting out, Chin Hao said without hiding anything. Tang Wanna was taken aback for a moment, then quickly came to her senses, smiling. She wrapped her arms around Chin Hao's arm and coquettishly said, never mind, Let's not call the police, she hadn't been harmed anyway, and as long as she didn't have to see this person again in the future, it would be fine. Silly girl, Chin Hao said affectionately. He stayed in the lounge for over 10 minutes before finally getting up and walking out. After leaving the lounge, Chin Hao returned to his desk to organize the materials from the meeting earlier. Preparing to finish the meeting in the conference room so he could go home early, just as he stood up from his chair, he heard some noisy commotion outside. Frowning deeply, he headed toward the door. Chen Qianqian had originally intended to go to Chin Hao's office to plead her case. However, as soon as she reached the 16th floor, she was stopped by two people from the secretarial office, who wouldn't let her pass, after being scolded by Chin Hao in the morning. Sister Zhao specifically assigned two senior employees from the secretarial office to guard Chin Hao's door. She instructed them that anyone without an appointment must first report before being allowed to enter. She also specifically emphasized keeping an eye on Chen Qianqian, an intern from the project department who had already been fired, and absolutely not allowing her to enter Mr. Chin's office. The two employees from the secretarial office did not dare to be negligent. So Chen Qianqian was stopped as soon as she stepped out of the elevator. After being stopped, she realized that not only would it be difficult to plead with Mr. Chin and his wife or apologize in person, but she might not even be able to see Mr. Chin at all, let alone his wife, standing there. She said to the secretarial staff, "I have something very important to discuss with Mr. Chin. Why are you stopping me?" The two employees from the secretarial office were both seasoned professionals and were not easily intimidated. They stood in front of her like a human wall. One of them replied calmly and respectfully, "I'm very sorry, but Mr. Chin is not receiving anyone this afternoon, and you do not have an appointment, so we cannot let you in." As she spoke, she even wore a slight professional smile, which starkly contrasted with Chen Qianqian's current demeanor. Why was no appointment needed before? "I'm an employee of the company. Do I need an appointment for work-related matters?" Chen Qianqian asked persistently. "Yes, even if it were President Tang, we would need to inform President Chin in advance to see if he has time to meet. So, please go back." The secretary's official reply made Chen Qianqian as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. If she didn't see President Chin immediately, she would soon be escorted by HR colleagues to complete the dismissal procedures upon returning to her office. Therefore, she absolutely had to see President Chin today. Taking advantage of the two secretaries' inattention, Chen Qianqian suddenly rushed inside. The two secretaries immediately reacted, running over to grab her and drag her out. Once blocked again, Chen Qianqian could no longer care about anything else and began shouting loudly, "Let me go! Let me go! I want to see President Chin! Let me in!" The two secretaries flanked her on either side, escorting her out. Chin Hao stepped out of his office just in time to witness this scene. Frowning, his face clearly displeased, he asked coldly, "What's going on?" The two women from the secretarial office saw him come out and quickly apologized. "We're sorry, Mr. Chin, we didn't mean to disturb you. This intern insisted on seeing you and forced her way in. We'll take her away right now." Chen Qianqian had finally caught sight of Chin Hao and wasn't about to let the opportunity slip away. She knew this was her last chance. In a swift motion, she rushed up to Chin Hao and anxiously tried to explain herself. "Mr. Chin, I really didn't know that woman was your wife. And I didn't mean to spill coffee on her. Please don't call the police. I'm willing to accept any punishment from the company, but please don't fire me. I really need this job. I need this internship opportunity. I can apologize to Mrs. Chin. Is she here? I'll go apologize to her right now." Chen Qianqian was so worked up that she started heading toward Chin Hao's office, but the two women from the secretarial office quickly stepped in to stop her. Chen Qianqian continued to shout, "What right do you have to hold me back, Mr. Chin hasn't said anything. What right do you have to stop me from apologizing to Mrs. Chin?" Chin Hao snapped sharply, "Enough." Though his voice wasn't loud, it carried immense authority. Not only did Chen Qianqian tremble in fear, but even the two experienced employees from the secretarial office could tell that Mr. Chin was truly furious. Chin Hao looked at Chen Qianqian. "What is your status?" What right do you have to go looking for my wife? I just wanted to apologize to Mrs. Chen. Chen Qianqian was so frightened that she stammered, almost unable to speak. Her face looking pitiful as she bit her lower lip tightly. Chen Hao continued, punishing according to company regulations is my final bottom line. Please don't come looking for us again, and especially don't disturb my wife. As soon as his words fell, the director of the Human Resources Department hurriedly ran over from the stairwell and said to Chen Hao, Mr. Chen, I'm sorry, let me handle this here. Chen Hao, with a dark expression and pursed lips, nodded and turned to leave. It wasn't until Chen Hao stepped into the elevator that the two women in the secretary's office finally breathed a sigh of relief. President Chen was truly angry this time. They had never seen him speak so harshly to anyone before, so everyone concluded that Mrs. Chen was definitely the company's top priority to protect. Chen Qianqian slumped to the ground in despair, smiling bitterly. Already aware of the outcome that awaited her, the HR director worked efficiently. Bringing the person directly from the 16th floor to the HR department, they promptly completed the procedures for Chen Qianqian and then arranged for two people to accompany her back to the 15th floor to pack her personal belongings from her workstation. The shorter girl approached her as she returned, glanced at the two HR staff behind her, and asked in a low voice, Qianqian, how did it go? Did you get to see President Chen and his wife? Chen Qianqian did not answer her question. Mechanically packing her personal belongings, the news of what had happened at the cafe that afternoon had already spread among the other women in the office. No one sympathized with Chen Qianqian's situation. After all, her intentions were practically written on her forehead. She had run into the official wife. Without even realizing what was going on, there weren't many people in the project department at the moment. Many hadn't returned yet. And the project manager had gone back to the meeting. A few male colleagues who were unaware of what had happened approached and asked, Qianqian, what's wrong with you? Chen Qianqian remained silent. The feeling of being stared at made her wish she could disappear into the ground. She quickly finished packing her things and was escorted out of JK Group's main entrance by two colleagues from the HR department. Holding her few personal belongings, she walked out of JK Group's building. Then couldn't help but turn back for one last look. It was still that iconic building. She had once been halfway through the door, only to ruin her own chances. Finally, she couldn't help but squat on the ground and burst into loud sobs. Chapter 527. After the incident escalated, Tang Wanna was sleeping soundly in the lounge of Chen Hao's office, unaware that Chen Qianqian had already been efficiently dealt with by the HR department and had left the company. The curtains in the lounge were drawn tightly, creating an environment perfect for sleeping. When Tang Wanna woke up and slowly opened her eyes, she saw only darkness and couldn't immediately figure out where she was. After a moment, she remembered that she was in the lounge of her third brother's office. She got up slowly, turned on the light in the lounge, and realized that the curtains had been drawn. No wonder it was so dark inside. She remembered that the curtains were open before she fell asleep. She guessed that her third brother must have come back during a meeting break and drawn them for her. Tang Wanna found her phone and saw that it was only a little past 4 in the afternoon, meaning she had only slept for a little over an hour. She had thought it was already 7 or 8 o'clock. Tang Wanna lifted the quilt and got out of bed, walking to the window to look outside. The sky was still bright with the afterglow of the sunset. It was a winter dusk, and although the temperature outside was not high, the twilight scene of bustling traffic appeared warm and beautiful because of the sunlight. Tang Wanna stood by the window, completely captivated. She took out her phone and took several photos in the direction of the setting sun, then lowered her head to carefully admire them. She was so engrossed that she only snapped out of it when she heard the sound of the lounge door being pushed open. Turning her head, she saw her third brother walking in, carrying 2 packaged cakes. Tang Wanna put down her phone and asked softly with a bright smile, "Honey, is your meeting over?" As Chen Hao pushed the door open, he saw his wife standing by the floor-to-ceiling window with the sunset glow behind her, like a sun goddess standing in the light. His little girl truly resembled his little son, shining brightly and always warming his heart with her companionship. Qin Hao curved the corners of his mouth, his face full of tenderness and adoration as he walked toward her. Yes, it's all settled, let's go home. Qin Hao extended his left hand to Tang Wanna, who smiled and placed her right hand into his palm. All right, let's go home. Tang Wanna's down jacket, which she had worn when she arrived, was now draped over Qin Hao's arm. Hand in hand, the two walked out together. The two women from the secretarial office saw them coming out and hurried to press the elevator button. They stood respectfully to the side, bowing their heads slightly. Only after Qin Hao and Tang Wanna had entered the elevator did the two turn and walk back to their office. As they walked, they chatted. President Qin and Mrs. Qin are so affectionate, it's truly enviable. We work so hard every day, and on top of that, we have to watch the boss and his wife flaunt their love. How unfortunate. The other woman smiled faintly. It's fine to envy them a little, but don't let it turn into jealousy. Don't end up like that intern who made such a mess of things. A man as exceptional as President Qin. If I dared to even think about it, I'd be overestimating myself. If I could ever find someone like that, it would be nothing short of a miracle. It's more practical to focus on working hard and earning money. Haha. I'd be happy if President Qin would give out more red envelopes and bonuses. This time, when the boss's wife gives birth, we can grab red envelopes again. Right, I need to change my phone. Last time, my phone was too laggy and I didn't manage to grab many. No way, I'm going to look at phones this weekend. The two chatted as they walked. It seemed the whole company was waiting for the day when Tang Wanna would give birth and Qin Hao would hand out red envelopes. Tang Yichen learned about the intern incident the next day. Many people were present at the coffee shop, and Qin Hao personally stepped in to handle the situation. The person who had coffee thrown at her turned out to be the CEO's wife. What a situation. Although no one openly discussed it, it was inevitable that people would talk about it privately. After Tang Yichen found out, he didn't say much. Since Qin Hao had already handled it, he decided to let it go. Otherwise, he would have definitely sent the person involved to the police station. Later, he specifically called a meeting with the Human Resources Department and the heads of all departments. From then on, the selection of interns for each department must be personally interviewed and confirmed by the department head. Secondly, the number of intern positions would be reduced. Once interns were brought in, they would be considered as talent to be cultivated by the company. 90% of them could stay after passing the assessment, while the remaining 10% would be subject to elimination based on performance. Any private promises made to interns or attempts to secure positions through connections were strictly forbidden. All decisions had to be signed off by the department head. This effectively centralized the authority back to the middle management. He also heard a lot of gossip about the intern who was fired. Things like privately trying to invite the department manager to dinner or having improper intentions. No matter how high their academic qualifications or how impressive their resumes, such individuals would not be hired under any circumstances. Qin Hao and Tang Wanna didn't mention the incident when they returned home. They had already discussed it on the way back. Deciding not to worry their parents, since the matter was resolved, they simply let it pass. However, when Qin Qing came over to ask Tang Wanna how things had gone that day, Tang Wanna ended up telling her what happened. Upon hearing this, Qin Qing jumped up angrily. Damn it, slapping her would be letting her off too easy. If I had been there, I would have beaten her so badly even her own mother wouldn't recognize her. What kind of person still pulls such manipulative tricks these days? Does she think she's as universally loved as money? Besides, doesn't she know my brother is loaded? Qin Qing was so worked up that she paced back and forth in Tang Wanna and Qin Hao's room, gesturing wildly with her hands in excitement. Qing, why don't you sit down first? All your pacing is making me dizzy. Tang Wanna said with a laugh. You're still laughing. I'm so mad. I should have taken the day off and gone with you today. I knew you wouldn't be able to handle it at all. Luckily your colleague was there, otherwise who knows what might have happened. Qin Qing plopped down on the small sofa next to Tang Wanna and said angrily, anyway, that person has already been fired, and we won't see her again. Tang Wanna tried to comfort Qin Qing instead. You're just too kind, that's why people bully you, Qin Qing said with a tone of frustration. You're still being so polite to someone who wanted to be a homewrecker. She didn't succeed, did she? And I believe third brother would never be tempted by her, Tang Wanna said with confidence. Indeed, no matter how many Chen Qianqians there were, Qin Hao would never betray her. This was beyond doubt and also the source of her confidence and self-assurance. When she went to the company, she never expected these things to happen. She was just curious about what the other person looked like and how there could be such a girl who, knowing full well that the man had a wife, would still act without any scruples. To be honest, it was her first time encountering such a situation. Purely out of curiosity, she chatted with Qin Qing for a while. Just as Qin Qing left their room, Qin Hao returned from his study. Seeing that she was still awake, Qin Hao frowned slightly. "Why aren't you asleep? I was chatting with Qing Qing for a while. She just went back to her room," Tang Wanna said softly, her eyes smiling at Qin Hao, filled with affection. "What did you talk about?" Qin Hao asked casually as he picked up his pajamas, preparing to take a shower. "Let's talk about Chen Qianqian," Tang Wanna replied with a smile. Qin Hao stopped walking, turned around, and walked back to the bedside, his brows slightly furrowed. "Don't think about unhappy things. Be good." Then he leaned down and gave her a kiss before going to take a shower. Tang Wanna sat on the bed with a beaming smile, gazing foolishly at Qin Hao's back as he walked into the bathroom. The streetlights outside the window seemed a bit desolate. In truth, the four seasons remain the same. "But because of you, even the autumn breeze feels gentle and the winter snow feels tender when I'm with you." Chapter 528 Qin Feimu, Miu Miu. In the late summer and early autumn, Tang Wanna gave birth to a boy, named Qin Feimu, with the nickname Miu Miu. The nickname was given by Qin Hao, based on the formal name. The formal name was chosen by Tang Wanna, without any special meaning. During her pregnancy, she was bored and browsed online for name references, eventually deciding that if it was a girl, she would be named Qin Feiyue, and if it was a boy, he would be named Qin Feimu. When she told Qin Hao the name she had chosen, he had no objections. Whatever his wife said was fine, as long as she was happy. Both sets of parents did not interfere in the matter. Although Tang Wanna's parents were former university professors, they said it was up to the young couple, as a name is just a form of address, and it's best for the parents to choose. So, on the day the child was born, upon hearing it was a boy, he was named Qin Feimu. The mother chose the formal name, and the father, following the formal name, gave him the nickname Miu Miu. When Tang Wanna heard Qin Hao suggest the nickname Miu Miu, she was delighted. It shared a homophone with a character in the formal name, simple and pleasant to the ear. The birth of little Miu Miu completely exhausted his father. When Tang Wanna was 2 months away from her due date, Qin Hao basically worked from home, going to the office only 1 or 2 days a week for meetings. The rest of the time, he stayed at home with Wanna. Tang Wanna's parents arrived 1 month before the due date. This time, they planned to stay for a while. So they moved back into the apartment where Tang Wanna had previously lived. As the due date drew closer, everyone grew increasingly nervous, especially Qin Hao. At night, he was almost in a half-asleep, half-awake state, constantly worried that Tang Wanna might go into labor and need to be rushed to the hospital. The hospital bag had been prepared in advance and placed in the suitcase. Tang Chen, speaking with the tone of someone who had been through it all, reassured Qin Hao. "It's fine, don't panic. If anything happens, just grab the suitcase and take her to the hospital right away." Little did anyone know that when Lin Shu's water broke back then, his heart had practically leaped into his throat. Now, when advising others, he sounded remarkably calm. Despite Tang Chen's words, Qin Hao remained extremely anxious. In the days leading up to the due date, he stayed by Tang Wanna's side almost every moment, barely closing his eyes at night. However, to everyone's surprise, as the due date counted down day by day, even on the night of the due date itself, Tang Wanna still showed no signs of labor. On her due date, Tang Wanna and Qin Hao still followed their usual routine, taking a 10-minute walk in the garden after dinner before returning to their room. Tang Wanna's belly was so large that if it hadn't been confirmed that there was only one baby inside, everyone would have suspected she was carrying twins, just like Lin Shu. During the later stages of her pregnancy, the doctor had strictly forbidden her from eating sweets. saying that the baby was already quite large. If she wanted to have a natural birth, she needed to control her diet and avoid any further weight gain. Although Tang Wanna had suffered from severe morning sickness in the early stages, her appetite had been excellent during the middle and later stages. All the nutrients seemed to be absorbed by the baby. As her limbs remained slender, and she still had a visible waistline when viewed from behind, only when seen from the front did her large belly stand out. To the point that even when she went out to the supermarket, people would comment that she must be carrying a boy. Qin Hao was always displeased whenever he heard such remarks. With a dark expression, he would coldly retort, "How can anyone tell? There's no scientific basis for that." Tang Wanna found it both amusing and exasperating. Her husband was eagerly awaiting the prize reveal, hoping for a daughter. Qin Hao helped Tang Wanna take a bath and waited until she was lying in bed before going to wash up himself. With her belly so large, he didn't feel comfortable letting her bathe alone. So during the late stages of her pregnancy, he took care of everything for her, bathing, trimming her nails, and washing her hair. After taking a shower, Qin Hao lay on the bed and, as usual, began talking to Tang Wanna's large belly. "Baby, are you coming out tonight? Daddy and Mommy are waiting for you together." That night, both Tang Wanna and Qin Hao were convinced that the baby was definitely going to make a move. It was already the due date, so surely the baby would arrive. During the day, the whole family waited together, but after a full day with no signs, both mothers said that perhaps the little one wasn't ready to come out yet and wanted to stay in the womb a few more days. They advised the couple not to wait any longer and suggested that if there were still no signs by midnight, they should go to the hospital for another checkup in the morning to see what the doctor had to say. Qin Hao turned off the light and let Tang Wanna sleep first, while he stayed by her side. It was very late by the time he leaned against the headboard and dozed off. In the middle of the night, Tang Wanna groggily got up to use the bathroom. Qin Hao jolted awake, thinking it was time, and anxiously asked, "Honey, is your stomach uncomfortable, or has your water broken?" Tang Wanna squinted at him, dazed, and said, "Husband, I need to use the bathroom." Qin Hao quickly got out of bed and helped Tang Wanna to the bathroom. To his surprise, Tang Wanna really just needed to use the toilet. There were no contractions, no water breaking, no spotting, and still no signs of labor. Qin Hao carefully helped her back to bed, but he couldn't sleep anymore. Convinced that the baby would definitely arrive tonight, early the next morning, Tang Wanna woke up to see her husband leaning over the bed with his eyes closed, dark circles under them. Her heart ached for him. She had intended to get up and wash up on her own, but as soon as she moved, her husband opened his eyes. "Darling, you're awake." Qin Hao's voice was hoarse and weary as he spoke. Tang Wanna said softly, "Honey, get some more sleep. The baby will come out when it's time. Let's rest a little longer, and we can go to the hospital this afternoon. There's no rush." The doctor said during the prenatal checkup that it's normal for babies to arrive before or after the due date. "Let's not worry. Whenever the baby comes, it comes." Tang Wanna felt that they had been overly anxious this past week. She, however, was not much affected, especially third brother, who hadn't slept well for several nights. She had come to realize that, after all, the baby would come out when the time was right, and there was no use in worrying. Qin Hao didn't go back to sleep and got up with Tang Wanna instead. After washing up and having breakfast, the two went straight to the hospital. The doctor laughed when he heard how anxious they were. After a thorough examination, he said, "The baby is healthy and has engaged. Don't worry, just wait a few more days. As mentioned before, it's normal for babies to be born 2 weeks before or after the due date. So there's no need to rush. Maybe the little one isn't ready to part from mommy yet. You're in good condition and don't need to be hospitalized in advance. Just be careful when you go back, and if you have any symptoms, come to the hospital immediately." After hearing the doctor's words, both of them breathed a sigh of relief and felt more at ease. Tang Wanna leaned close to Qin Hao's ear and said with a smile, "I knew everything would be fine." Qin Hao helped her walk toward the parking lot and replied with a smile, "Yes, my wife is always right." The two of them happily went home. After returning from the hospital checkup, Qin Hao relayed the doctor's words, and the whole family became less tense. They no longer anxiously watched Tang Wanna's belly every day, waiting for labor to start. Instead, they peacefully waited and looked forward to it. Chapter 529. Finally, labor begins. After the due date passed without any news of the baby's arrival, Qin Hao and Tang Wanna received many concerned phone calls. The group chat among Qin Hao and his friends was usually quiet, except for Lu Yang, who was more active and liked to share strange messages in the group. The older brothers in the group rarely paid him any attention. Wanna is 2 days past her due date and still hasn't given birth, and Lu Xiaowu is starting to jump around in the group chat again. Lu Xiaowu, third brother, hasn't Wanna given birth yet? What's going on? I'm ready to go to the hospital to see you and the baby. At third brother, Qin Hao, yeah, the doctor said it should be within the next couple of days. Lu Xiaowu, why am I feeling a bit nervous? That girl Wanna is about to become a mother. Qin Hao, Tangichen, it's understandable for third brother to be nervous. But why are you nervous? Lu Xiaowu, can't I be nervous for third brother? Ji Fengfan, third brother was so nervous he couldn't sleep all night. But I didn't see you losing any sleep. Lu Xiaowu, fourth brother, am I still your favorite little brother or not? Ji Fengfan, I'm straight, stop being disgusting. Lu Xiaowu, what's disgusting about it? We're just being a loving, respectful pair of brothers. Tangichen, hurry up and get to work. Divide up third brother's tasks. Once Wanna gives birth, he'll have even more on his plate. Lu Xiaowu, oh heavens, second brother, please come back soon. At Mo's. Arriving in Jiangcheng tonight, Lu Xiaowu, only second brother truly loves me. The other brothers had already stopped paying attention to Lu Xiaowu. He had been spamming the group chat with numerous stickers and individually tagging each of his brothers, but no one responded. Lu Yang found it boring and went to look for Tang Wanna, but she didn't reply either because her water had finally broken. She genuinely had no time to deal with him. After having lunch at home, Qin Hao took Tang Wanna upstairs for a nap. Once Tang Wanna fell asleep, Qin Hao stayed by her side, browsing the web on his phone and chatting with friends in a group chat. Just as he put his phone down, he saw Tang Wanna drowsily open her eyes and try to sit up, propping herself on her arms. Qin Hao quickly went over to support her. Honey, what's wrong? Tang Wanna felt that the lower part of her pants was a bit wet. She froze for a moment, then looked up at Qin Hao with a hint of tears in her voice and said, Husband, I think I wet my pants. Qin Hao was also taken aback for a moment. He hurriedly lifted the blanket and saw that Wanna's pajama pants were indeed wet. At that moment, Qin Hao was dumbfounded and didn't react immediately. He comforted her while coaxing, It's okay, honey, I'll get you clean pajamas, just wash up and change, and it'll be fine. He thought it was due to the late stage of pregnancy and that she couldn't hold it in. Just then, Qin's mother came upstairs with some snacks to bring Tang Wanna her afternoon tea. After knocking on the door, she found it unlocked and gently pushed it open. Carrying the tray, she walked in with a smile and said, Wanna, afternoon tea is here. Today, it's bird's nest soup. I just finished stewing it. When she looked up and saw her son about to take off Wanna's pants, she froze in place, then awkwardly turned around in a hurry. Why wasn't the door locked? Aunt Qin thought the young couple was about to do that kind of thing and was about to take the food away first, but then she realized something was wrong. She put the bird's nest on the nearby cabinet and rushed over in a hurry. You brat, what time is it now? Can you do this kind of thing? Don't you have any common sense? Even if you don't, didn't the doctor tell you it's not allowed in the 3rd trimester? Can't you hold it in for a while? Wanna, how could you let him do whatever he wants? A woman must protect herself. Your body is your own. Aunt Qin rushed over, pulled Qin Hao away, and started scolding him. Tang Wanna, lying on the bed, originally wanted to cry, but now she felt like laughing. It was both awkward and hilarious. Every time she recalled that scene later, she couldn't stop laughing. Qin Hao quickly grabbed Aunt Qin to stop her. Mom, hold on a second. Go on, say it. Let's see how you try to talk your way out of this. How could what I saw with my own eyes be fake? Aunt Qin crossed her arms. Still furious, she glared at Qin Hao and muttered, When your dad comes back, I'll have him give you a good beating. Wanna's belly is so big now, and all you think about is yourself. Tang Wanna blushed and hurriedly explained for her third brother. Mom, third brother really didn't mean it like that, I think I wet my pants. Third brother was just going to help me change. The more Tang Wanna spoke, the softer her voice became. Wetting her pants at such an age was truly embarrassing. Chin's mother seemed to only focus on the first part of the sentence. Wanna, stop making excuses for him. Chin Hao stood by without saying a word in rebuttal. After processing the information for about 2 minutes, Chin's mother suddenly exclaimed, "Have you two become so nervous that you've lost your minds? It's understandable for Wanna to have pregnancy brain for 3 years, but what's wrong with you, son? This isn't just wetting her pants, it's definitely her water breaking. Hurry up and get ready to go to the hospital, grab the delivery bag, and I'll call the hospital to let them know we're coming. Quick, son. Carry Wanna downstairs, we're all going together." Only after hearing his mother's words did Chin Hao finally snap to attention. He bent down, scooped up Tang Wanna, and rushed downstairs. Chin's mother followed behind, pulling the suitcase, and the 3 of them headed straight to the hospital. When they arrived, doctors and nurses were already waiting at the entrance. It was the same private hospital where Lin Shu had given birth. As soon as Tang Wanna arrived at the hospital, she was wheeled into the delivery room for examination. During the car ride, she had already begun to feel faint, intermittent pains in her abdomen. Though she was inwardly anxious and scared, she had been holding it in. In the delivery room, the doctors hooked her up to an oxygen tank and a fetal heart monitor, and clipped a device to her finger. Her fear only intensified. Alone in the room, she lay on the narrow hospital bed. Struggling to suppress the terror growing inside her, the labor pains began to intensify, bringing with them a particularly conflicting mix of fear and anticipation. The nurse nearby would occasionally check on her fetal heart rate monitor. She lay there silently, her mind constantly drifting to Chin Hao. Unaware that her husband could accompany her during childbirth, she thought she would have to stay there alone until the baby was born before she could see everyone again. She was also regretting not having had a proper conversation with her third brother earlier. As everyone had rushed her in so quickly, just as she was drenched in sweat from the onslaught of labor pains, she looked up and saw Chin Hao standing before her in sterile attire. The tears she had been holding back instantly streamed down her face, and she cried out in distress, "Honey, I'm scared." The tall, 1.8-meter-tall man immediately burst into tears. Chapter 530, Little Miu Miu is finally born. Chin Hao stepped over and held Tang Wanna's hand, giving her a lot of strength. With reddened eyes, he gently comforted her. "Honey, don't be afraid, I'm here. Let's welcome our baby together. I asked the doctor, and you'll be able to get the epidural soon, then you can rest for a while." After seeing Chin Hao arrive, Tang Wanna felt much more at ease and wasn't as scared as before. Chin Hao stayed with her the whole time. When she was dilated to 3 centimeters, the anesthesiologist came to administer the epidural. She had heard before that the epidural needle was particularly thick and long, and it was inserted from the back. She didn't see it herself, but she noticed that third brother's eyes were red again. She only felt that shortly after the injection, the labor pains really subsided. She understood the saying she had seen online, "Epidural anesthesia is truly a blessing for women." After the painless injection was administered, the nurse said she could close her eyes and rest for a while. Tang Wanna, however, couldn't really fall asleep, but with Chin Hao's gentle coaxing, she closed her eyes to conserve her energy. Before resting, she ate a piece of chocolate that her third brother had brought in and drank half a bottle of Red Bull. After Chin Hao followed into the delivery room, only Chin's mother was left waiting outside. She took out her phone and started notifying everyone one by one. First, she called Tang Wanna's parents. As soon as Tang's father and mother heard that her water had broken and she had been sent to the hospital, they hung up and immediately headed to the hospital. Then she called her own husband and daughter separately. Chin's father also rushed to the hospital from his company. When Chin Ching received the call, she was with the screenwriter mentoring her, going over the script with the actors. She stuffed the script into her bag and said in a fluster, "Teacher, my sister-in-law is in the hospital about to give birth. I have to go there right away." before anyone could react, she had already dashed out like a gust of wind. As luck would have it, she had sent her car for maintenance early that morning. She tried to hail a ride using her phone, but after waiting for a long time, no one accepted her request. Just as she was about to turn back to borrow a car and head to the hospital, she turned around and immediately bumped into someone's chest. "Ah, what are you in such a hurry for?" Xiao Juanhan's lazy voice sounded above Qin Qing's head. She covered her forehead and glared at him, saying irritably, "None of your business, move aside, I don't have time to chat with you." Xiao Junhan frowned slightly, unusually refraining from arguing with Qin Qing. Instead, he continued in a gentle tone, "It's hard to get a ride at this hour. Where are you going? Let me take you." Qin Qing raised her eyebrows and looked up at him, her expression puzzled. "What's wrong with you today? Why are you being so gentle with me?" She even took a cautious step back. Xiao Junhan couldn't help but roll his eyes, and upon closer inspection, one could even see the blush behind his ears. He said loudly, "When have I ever been ungentle to you?" Qin Qing stepped forward and slapped Xiao Junhan on the shoulder. "That's more like it. I thought you had changed today. Come on, where's your car? Take me to the hospital. Wanna is about to give birth." As she spoke, Qin Qing pulled Xiao Juanhan's hand and headed out. Xiao Juanhan's car was parked in the lot at the entrance of the film set. Qin Qing recognized his car and walked straight toward it as soon as they stepped outside. As if she knew her way around, she muttered, "Why have you been coming to the film set so often lately? Did you take a fancy to some pretty girl again? Can't I come here for work?" Xiao Junhan suddenly changed his expression. Angrily yanking the car door open and getting into the driver's seat, Qin Qing thought he was being unreasonable, but she held back for the sake of having a driver take her to the hospital. She made a face at Xiao Junhan before getting into the passenger seat. Tang Yichen and old Master Tang were notified by Tang Yichen's father. After Tang Yichen found out, he sent a message in the group chat, so everyone soon knew. They all rushed to the hospital, and one by one, the group gathered outside the delivery room, waiting for good news from the doctors inside. After receiving the epidural, Tang Wanna dozed off for a while. When she was almost fully dilated, the doctor turned off the epidural, and the labor pains returned, although Tang Wanna remained silent. Her face turned pale from the pain. Qin Hao, watching by her side, felt heartbroken and became even more determined that they would only have this one child. The agony of childbirth was something his little girl should endure only once. Tang Wanna's labor pains became increasingly frequent. Fortunately, since it was a natural onset of labor, the pain was still bearable. The doctor had previously mentioned that if she went over 2 weeks past her due date without labor starting, she would need to be induced. This had been a constant worry for her, so she was actually quite relieved when labor began, seeing Qin Hao standing by her side. Holding her hand, she could tell what he was thinking. When the contraction passed, she comforted him. "Honey, it's okay, it'll be over once the baby is born." Qin Hao's eyes were red, his face full of pain and concern, as he replied in a muffled voice, When the doctor said she was fully dilated and could start pushing, Tang Wanna felt as if she had been granted a great reprieve. The heavy, painful sensation of the contractions had been something the doctor had repeatedly told her to endure, and now she could finally push. She followed the doctor's rhythm closely, and with Qin Hao by her side, the delivery process turned out to be surprisingly quick. In no time, she heard the baby's cry. The doctor showed her the baby for a moment and praised her for her excellent cooperation, which had made the delivery go smoothly, an 8-pound, 6-ounce chubby baby boy. The doctors had expected some difficulties, but no one anticipated it would be so smooth and quick. Qin Hao looked at the exhausted Tang Wanna, burying his head in her shoulder. Tang Wanna felt a dampness. Her third brother was crying again. "Honey, am I amazing? 8 pounds and 6 ounces. I gave birth to him." Tang Wanna said weakly, her voice soft, "Yes, our Wanna is the most incredible mom." Qin Hao nodded gently, replying in a tender tone. The two of them were observed for another 2 hours before being taken out and brought back to the ward. However, the group waiting outside had already received the news from the doctor right after Wanna gave birth. They had long known she had delivered an 8-pound, 6-ounce chubby baby boy. Lu Yang said loudly at the door. Wanmei is really amazing. Third brother, just like the eldest brother, also had a boy. Then, turning to Ji Fengfan, he said, fourth brother, you're probably the next one to get married. When the time comes, have a daughter for me to play with. Ji Fengfan rolled his eyes at him as if he were an idiot and couldn't be bothered to respond. Where did little Five get the idea that he would be the next to get married? Xia Qingqian didn't come with Ji Fengfan. She was still on a show and didn't know that Wanna had already given birth. Ji Fengfan knew her schedule for the day, so he didn't call her and just sent a WeChat message to let her know. Old Master Tang said cheerfully, whether it's a boy or a girl, they're both treasures. Both are wonderful. Ha ha ha. The parents on both sides also smiled and replied, yes, both boys and girls are good. Chapter 531. A small gathering at the bar. Tangichen and his family were practically all present. Old Master Tang had come. Lin Shu had brought the youngest, Lei Lei, along. And even Lin Yuchen and Lin Yunuo, who were originally still in school but had been picked up early by Tangichen, had also come, after Tang Wanna was brought back to the ward. Both the baby and she were visited and greeted by everyone in turn. Everyone had rushed to the hospital as soon as they received the call and had waited together for several hours. By the time Tang Wanna returned to the ward, it was already 9 p.m. They had a simple dinner at the hospital cafeteria, arranged by Qin's father and Qin's mother. At that time, Wanna hadn't given birth yet, and no one was in the mood to go out for a big meal. After visiting Wanna and the baby, Old Master Tang was ready to head back. Lin Shu also had to take the children home, as one of them still needed to be breastfed, and the other two had to go to bed early for school the next day. It was enough to confirm that Wanna and her baby were safe and sound. Tang Yichen naturally went back with his wife and children as well. Qin Hao asked Qin Qing to take their parents and Wanna's parents home too. After all, with so many people in the hospital, Wanna wouldn't be able to rest properly. The two mothers thought it made sense, and with Qin Hao there, they had nothing to worry about. They could go back and prepare some food to bring over early the next morning. Even though both mothers were there, Qin Hao still hired a professional nanny specifically to take care of the newborn. A postpartum caregiver is relatively more experienced, which would also make things a bit easier for the two mothers. After Tang Yichen and his family left, Xiao Junhan also left with Qin Qing. His car couldn't fit so many people. Qin Qing had originally planned to have Xiao Junhan drive Tang's father and mother home, while she would take her own parents back by taxi. Unexpectedly, Xiao Junhan disagreed. He made a phone call, and soon another car arrived. In the end, the car he called took Tang's father and mother to the apartment, while Xiao Junhan drove Qin Qing, along with Qin's father and mother, back to the Qin residence. Only Lu Yang, Mo Ziyi, and Ji Fengfan, the three brothers, remained. Lu Yang suggested going to the bar for a while, as they hadn't been there in a long time. Neither Ji Fengfan nor Mo Ziyi had any objections. Qin Hao couldn't possibly leave, so the three of them drove separately to Qin Hao's bar. The bar's business was still booming, with the first floor filled with young people dancing. The three of them didn't sit in the booth area but went straight to the private room upstairs, just wanting to have a few drinks in peace and quiet. After sitting for a while, Lu Yang felt bored again and called Tang Yichen and Qin Qing, asking Ji Fengfan to invite Xia Qingqian as well. It's no fun with just the three of us drinking, it'll be more lively with more people. When Tang Yichen received the call, he had just arrived home. The nanny was giving Xiao Lei a bath, while Lin Shu was in Lin Yunuo's room preparing her pajamas. Nowadays, Cheng Cheng and Wonuo could basically bathe themselves, so their parents didn't need to worry about them anymore. Old Master Tang had gone back to his room to rest as soon as he returned home. When Lin Shu returned to her own room from Lin Yunuo's room, she saw Tang Yichen just hanging up the phone. She casually asked, "Who was that on the phone, little Five?" Lin Shu looked over with a puzzled expression. "Xiao Wu, are they still at the hospital?" she asked, then walked over to the wardrobe to get her pajamas before heading to take a shower. Have Cheng Cheng and Wonuo gone to sleep? Tang Yichen didn't answer Lin Shu's question. Instead, he walked over to her, wrapped his arms around her, rested his chin on her shoulder, and asked about their two little ones. Lin Shu smiled and replied, "Yes, they're both asleep. Aunt Lele just finished bathing her. After she drinks her milk and is soothed to sleep, Auntie will bring her over. Lele shared the room with them but still slept in her own crib. The nanny who had been taking care of them during the postpartum period was still with them. She was diligent and meticulous in her work, and they were all quite satisfied with her. Tang-Chen nuzzled against her shoulder and neck several times, his voice hoarse as he said, "Honey, why do you smell so good?" After speaking, he sniffed deeply, making Lin Shu's neck itch terribly. She laughed and tried to dodge. "It's so ticklish. I haven't even taken a bath. How could I smell good?" Tang-Chen wrapped his arms around her, not letting her escape, and buried his face in her shoulder, refusing to lift his head. Like a child, he insisted, "But you do smell good." Unable to break free, Lin Shu quickly changed the subject. "You mentioned earlier that Xiao Wu called. What did he want?" Tang-Chen kissed Lin Shu's neck and then lifted his head. "The three of them are at a bar, saying they're too bored, and called to ask me to join them." Lin Shu turned her head and looked at Tang-Chen. "Then you go ahead. Lele is already asleep, and the nanny just brought him over, so there shouldn't be any issues." Tang-Chen held her hand, unwilling to let go. "I don't want to go. Let them have fun on their own, with his wife in his arms. Who would want to go sit in a bar and drink? Alright, if you're not going, let's sleep early. I'm going to take a shower." Lin Shu smiled, holding her pajamas as she walked into the bathroom. In the first 3 months after Lele was born, Tang-Chen had actually been quite busy. He handled the nighttime feedings and diaper changes himself, as the nanny slept separately at night, so all the work fell on him. Lin Shu sometimes felt sorry for him, seeing him juggling company matters while also taking care of the baby. Fortunately, as the baby grew older, the nighttime feedings became less frequent, and there were no more major diaper changes at night, making things much easier than before. After finishing her shower, Lin Shu came out and saw Tang-Chen on the phone again. "I'm not going. You guys have fun." It was probably Xiao Wu on the other end. She couldn't hear what was being said, but she heard Tang-Chen add, "I really can't go. Your sister-in-law has already showered and is getting ready to sleep." Lin Shu walked over to him, and as soon as she approached, Tang-Chen handed her the phone. Lin Shu was momentarily stunned. "Xiao Wu." Tang-Chen nodded. "This kid insists that we both go over." Lin Shu smiled and took Tang-Chen's phone, placing it to her ear. "Xiao Wu, sister-in-law, why don't you and Big Brother come out and have some fun? It's been so long since you've been out." Lu Yang's voice came through the phone. Lin Shu replied with a smile, "It's fine if your Big Brother goes. I won't be joining. If you don't come, how could Big Brother possibly go out? Just stay for a little while. Ching-Ching and the others are already on their way." Lu Yang insisted earnestly, unable to refuse any further. Lin Shu softly agreed. "Then I'll see about it later. Don't wait for us. Just go ahead." Lu Yang hung up the phone. Lin Shu handed the phone to Tang-Chen, who said, "Ignore Xiao Wu, we're not going." Lin Shu laughed. "You should go, honey. Otherwise Xiao Wu will call again later. Then let's turn off our phones. I can't bear to leave you home alone." Tang-Chen hugged Lin Shu and said gloomily. After thinking for a moment, Lin Shu said, "Then let's go together. What should we do about Lele?" Tang-Chen looked up and asked, "Let the nanny take care of her. We'll just go out for a while and come back soon. It's fine," Lin Shu said. She then changed into a fresh set of outdoor clothes, checked on little Lele, gave the nanny a few instructions, and pulled Tang-Chen out the door. Chapter 532, Between Friends. By the time Lin Shu and Tang-Chen arrived, everyone who could make it had already come, including an unexpected guest, Xiao Junhan. When Lu Yang called Ching-Ching, Xiao Junhan had just dropped her and the others off at her doorstep. He overheard her answering the phone and insisted on tagging along, shamelessly offering to be her free chauffeur. It was the first time Ching-Ching had seen him act so brazenly. Mose and the others originally knew Xiao Junhan as well, but since Xiao Junhan was a bit younger than them and from another compound, and his family had started in business early and moved out of the compound long ago, they didn't often play together. Besides, they had all just met at the hospital, so it wasn't surprising that he came with Ching-Ching. Xia Qingqian and Ching-Ching arrived one after the other. Xia Qingqian came from the hospital. After finishing work, she drove herself to the hospital to visit Tang Wanna and the baby. While at the hospital, she received a WeChat message from Ji Fengfan. She didn't linger long, knowing Wanna needed rest, and then drove herself to the bar. She's been quite busy lately and hasn't gone out to have fun in a while. Originally, she planned to go home and rest after the hospital visit, thinking Ji Fengfan had already gone back. Who knew they had gone to the bar instead? On the way, Qing called her, thinking she was still filming on set. When she found out Xia Qingqian was also on her way to the bar, she was overjoyed. Even though Wanna wasn't there, the two sisters could still have a great time together. After Lin Shu arrived, Qing and Xia Qingqian pulled her onto the dance floor. She wasn't really in the mood to go, but she couldn't resist the energy and enthusiasm of the two younger girls, who dragged her down to the dance floor. With the lively music and passionate dancing, Lin Shu hadn't sweated so much or moved so vigorously since giving birth to Lele. After working up a sweat, she felt much more relaxed overall. In fact, she was feeling a bit insecure after giving birth. Since this was her second pregnancy and delivery, the excess skin on her belly still hadn't tightened up. She felt as if the loose skin on her stomach made her look like she was still 3 months pregnant. She had originally planned to start practicing yoga and jogging after weaning, but after dancing with Qing and Xia Qingqian today, she realized that dancing might also be a great form of exercise. It even made her sweat more than running. The men upstairs stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, holding their wine glasses as they watched the people dancing in the ballroom below. Lu Yang was also getting restless. The bar's music switched to a soft, soothing piano piece. Lu Yang set down his glass and announced he was going down to dance. His older brothers ignored him, and only Xiao Junhan was willing to accompany him. Lu Yang said with a grin, "Big brother, fourth brother, if you two don't go down, your wives and Qianqian might get taken away by other men." Tang Yichen and Ji Fengfan then noticed that the music downstairs had changed to a social dance. They turned around, set down their glasses, and strode quickly toward the stairs. Lu Yang then turned to Mo Ziyi and asked, "Second brother, aren't you going?" Mo's really had no interest in dancing, sitting alone on the sofa with a glass in hand. "You guys go ahead, I'll rest for a bit." Lu Yang didn't press further and took Xiao Junhan down with him. As soon as Lu Yang and Xiao Junhan stepped down, two girls came up to invite them. Of course, Tang Yichen and Ji Fengfan were also approached by several groups of people as soon as they came downstairs. But they just refused expressionlessly. Lu Yang, very gentlemanly, bowed and took one of the girls' hands, saying, "My pleasure." Then the two walked to the center of the dance floor, leaving Xiao Junhan and the other girl staring at each other. Just as Xiao Junhan was about to refuse, Qing walked over and extended an invitation to him as well. Xiao Junhan smiled at Qing and reached out his hand to her. The other girl who had arrived first was displeased and turned to confront Qing. "What do you mean by this? Don't you know the rule of first come, first served?" Qing retorted without backing down. "Then didn't you see that he doesn't want to dance with you?" The girl became even angrier at the rebuttal. "Which eye of yours saw him reject me? Oh, then why don't you formally reject this young lady now?" Qing said to Xiao Junhan. Xiao Junhan politely turned to the girl and said, "Sorry, I can't dance with you." The girl shot back, "Why?" Xiao Junhan glanced at Qing before turning back to answer, "Because I want to dance with her." The girl stormed off angrily, and only then did Qing belatedly feel her face flush. She didn't know what had come over her. Seeing a girl standing in front of Xiao Junhan, she had rushed over without a second thought, wanting to pull him away. It felt as if something that belonged to her was being eyed by someone else. But when had she automatically categorized Xiao Junhan as one of her own? After the girl left, Qing came to her senses and wanted to escape, but Xiao Junhan held her hand tightly, refusing to let go. "Where are you going? Didn't you say we were going to dance?" Qing's face was flushed, though it was unclear whether it was from the alcohol or from embarrassment. Fortunately, the dim lighting in the bar made it hard to see clearly. Xiao Junhan smiled and pulled her onto the dance floor. Qing kept her head down the whole time. It wasn't her first time dancing with Xiao Junhan. They often hung out together, But she had never felt this nervous before. Her heart was pounding so loudly she could hear it, even more intensely than the first time they had danced together. Qin Qing thought it must be because of the new cocktail the bartender had recommended to her that night, which was causing her to act out of the ordinary. Yes, that had to be it. Xiao Junhan was actually quite nervous himself. Although the two of them were dancing, neither said a word, as if each had their own thoughts weighing on their minds. Finally, the music stopped. Qin Qing quickly let go of Xiao Junhan's hand and fled as if running for her life, watching her retreating figure. Xiao Junhan shook his head with a bitter smile. Everyone had been at the bar for about 2 hours when Lin Shu, thinking of the child at home, suggested they leave early. The others didn't stay either and decided to go for a late-night snack, so they all left together, except for Lin Shu and Tang Chen. The rest of the group went for a late-night snack. They hired a designated driver to take them to a very down-to-earth street barbecue stall that Lu Yang had found. Since Xia Qingqian was with them, they specifically reserved a private room to enjoy barbecue and crayfish in seclusion. Most of them had only eaten simple meals at the hospital for dinner, and Xia Qingqian hadn't eaten at all. She had only nibbled on an apple on the way. By this point, they were all eating as if they hadn't had a proper meal in days, devouring the skewers with gusto. The early autumn night carried a slight chill. They chatted casually as they ate and didn't finish until after midnight. By the time they left the barbecue shop, they were the last remaining table. The owner was already cleaning up and putting away the tables and chairs, and the streets were nearly empty of pedestrians. The autumn in Jiangcheng had a somewhat desolate feel, but the hearts of a few people were filled to the brim, feeling very fulfilled and warm. Perhaps this is how it is between friends. It's not about doing something special together, but about each person being someone special. Chapter 533, Red Envelopes at the Full Moon Banquet. Tang Wanna stayed in the hospital for a week after giving birth. Every day, people came to visit her and the baby, university classmates, colleagues from the company, and even many business partners who came because of Qin Hao's connections. Eventually, the number of visitors became overwhelming. Qin Hao had to step in and tell everyone to stop coming, promising to host a full moon banquet to thank them all, which finally calmed things down. Auntie Qin and Auntie Tang took turns preparing various delicious dishes for her. Most of the time, the newborn was taken care of by the confinement nanny, Qin Hao, and the two mothers. Tang Wanna hardly ever held the baby. Both mothers insisted that she should rest well during the postpartum period and avoid holding the child too soon, as it could lead to arm soreness later on. Every day, Tang Wanna would gaze longingly at little Miu Miu, yearning to hold the baby. In the evening, after both mothers had gone home, Qin Hao sent the confinement nanny back as well and stayed behind to take care of Wanna. Tang Wanna craned her neck to look at the little one in Qin Hao's arms, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. "Honey, can I hold the baby, please?" Her sweet, soft voice seemed to tickle Qin Hao's heart. He gently coaxed her. "How about waiting until after the postpartum period to hold the baby?" Then, he brought the little one closer to Tang Wanna so she could get a good look. Tang Wanna looked at the tiny little one, lying quietly with eyes closed in his father's arms. Everything about him was so small, and he looked so much like third brother. It was like seeing a baby version of him. She giggled dreamily, reaching out to hold Miu Miu's little hand. "So adorable." After a pause, she added, "I gave birth to him." Her tone couldn't have been more proud. Qin Hao looked at her, his eyes filled with tenderness. "Yes, our Wanna is the best." His tone was as if coaxing a child. Tang Wanna still wanted to hold her son, so she started acting coquettishly with Qin Hao again. "Honey, just let me hold him for a bit, just a little while." "It'll be fine." Qin Hao couldn't handle her move and said helplessly, "Just for a little while. I'll put you on the bed later and sleep with you for a bit." Tang Wanna's eyes lit up upon hearing this, and she nodded vigorously with a beaming smile. Qin Hao carefully placed the little bundle into Tang Wanna's hands, and she received it just as carefully. As he did so, he explained how to hold the baby comfortably. Over the past few days, he had learned a lot from the confinement nanny and both mothers about childcare techniques and precautions. He was quite adept at taking care of the child. So much so that even the confinement nanny said he didn't seem like a new dad. Tang Wanna held the baby, her heart melting with tenderness. She smiled gently at little Miu Miu and said softly, "Baby, I'm your mom." Qin Hao stood by the bed, looking at his wife and child, feeling that this life was complete. Tang Wanna held the baby for a while, then Qin Hao took her and placed her on the bed, lying down beside her. Throughout the whole process, little Miu Miu was very well behaved. Sleeping with her eyes closed the entire time without any crying or fussing, as if she knew her father and mother were by her side, sleeping very peacefully. Qin Hao also sat down by the bed, the warm scene of the family of three resembling the most beautiful picture. Little Qin Feimu's full moon banquet was held at the same place as her brother Leilei's full moon banquet, the top-floor banquet hall of the Imperial Hotel owned by Xiao Juanhan's family. Qin Hao and Wanna originally planned to keep it low-key, inviting just a few tables of relatives and friends. However, the news spread quickly, and all sorts of people connected to JK or wanting to establish some connection showed up uninvited, having missed manager Tang's full moon banquet last time. They naturally didn't want to miss manager Qin's this time. As the saying goes, you don't hit a smiling face. Since people came with gifts and smiles, it wasn't appropriate to turn them away. As a result, the previously arranged tables were insufficient. Fortunately, Xiao Junhan was familiar with the situation, and the hotel temporarily added more than double the number of tables. The full moon banquet was lively and grand, although Qin Hao had always said he wanted a daughter and that daughters were better. After Mu Mu was born, he was the one who held her the most. Originally a graceful and elegant gentleman, now with the added role of father, his smile is even warmer, and his eyes are full of tenderness. The female guests at the full moon banquet couldn't help but glance back at him a few more times. Ding Chen leaned close to Tang Wanna's ear and said very bluntly, "I find President Qin even more handsome after becoming a father. I've never seen him smile so often, it's absolutely electrifying. Look at how he captivates everyone, young and old, men and women, it's a total sweep." Tang Wanna looked up with a smile. Her third brother was holding their son while chatting with someone. Wearing the familiar smile she knew so well, he really was so handsome. Ding Chen was still chattering beside her. "Honestly, you've recovered so well and so quickly. It's only been a month since the full moon, but it feels like you're already back to your pre-pregnancy state." Ding Chen carefully looked Tang Wanna over. "No. It seems like you're in even better shape than before, so fresh and radiant. You don't look like someone who just had a baby at all. It's incredible." Tang Wanna was indeed recovering very well, and her overall condition clearly showed she was relaxed and comfortable. Although the two mothers prepared postpartum meals that required eating several times a day, the meals were well balanced with a mix of meat and vegetables, providing rich nutrition. Despite eating a lot, Tang Wanna didn't gain weight, likely because she was breastfeeding, and instead, she slimmed down quickly on the day of the full moon banquet. The colleagues who attended all gave gifts of varying amounts. That evening, Qin Hao scattered red envelopes in the company group chat, and almost everyone managed to recoup the amount they had gifted through the red envelopes. Some even ended up with more. Jianglu also attended the full moon banquet that day, and his mother came as well. Considered a friend on Tang Wanna's mother's side, Jianglu didn't come with his mother. He arrived quite late, almost after most of the guests had left. While Qin Hao was seeing guests off at the entrance, he spotted Jianglu walking over, looking a bit weary from his journey. Qin Hao invited him to go upstairs to the banquet hall, as Tang Wanna and the baby were still there. Since there were still guests downstairs, Qin Hao didn't accompany Jianglu upstairs. As Jianglu walked in, he saw Tang Wanna from a distance, standing by the stage with a radiant smile. Someone was holding a baby beside her, and she was happily playing with the child. Jianglu curled his lips into a smile, watching Tang Wanna and silently thinking to himself that she still seemed like a child herself, yet she was already a mother. Jianglu walked toward Tang Wanna. By then, the hotel staff were already clearing the tables and chairs, and there weren't many people left in the banquet hall. Tang Wanna's attention was entirely on the child, and she only noticed Jianglu when he had already approached. She looked at him with surprise and said happily, "When did you return to the country? Why are you so late? You didn't even get to eat." Jiang Lu smiled and handed her the paper bag he was carrying. Tang Wanna was taken aback for a moment before accepting it, asking, "What is this?" Jiang Lu still wore a smile, just like the first time they met, a sunny, cheerful boy. A little gift for the child. Chapter 534, Uncle. After taking the bag, Tang Wanna initially intended to set it aside for the moment. Unexpectedly, Jiang Lu curled his lips and said, "Aren't you going to open it?" Tang Wanna smiled and no longer stood on ceremony. She took the box out of the bag and, while unwrapping the gift for her son, said, "I was just a bit shy. It's not exactly polite to open a gift right in front of someone. I'm not an outsider. I'm the uncle. After all, gifts should definitely be opened right then and there," Jiang Lu said with a playful smile. Tang Wanna heard Jiang Lv refer to himself as uncle and was momentarily stunned. Then, with a bright smile, she turned to Qin Feimu, who was being held by the nanny beside her, and said, "Let's see what uncle has brought for Miu Miu." She then opened the gift box in her hand. When she saw what was inside the box, she was visibly taken aback, her eyes widening in surprise. The gift in the box was of the same type as the ones her two mothers had given. "This?" Tang Wanna looked up at Jiang Lv. Then down at the contents of the box. Jiang Lv looked at her with a smile and said, "What's wrong? Is it too tacky?" Tang Wanna smiled and nodded, answering without hesitation, "It is quite tacky, just like my mom's taste." Jiang Li gave Qin Feimu a set of pure gold zodiac pendants and bracelets. Giving gold as a gift really carries some weight. "Gold is great. My cousin's kids all wear these little gold bracelets. They look quite nice, don't they?" Jiang Li said with a curved smile. Tang Wanna put the box back into the shopping bag and said with a smile, "Thank you, uncle." On behalf of my son, Tang Wanna really didn't expect someone Jiang Lu's age to give gold as a gift. It was quite surprising and completely unimaginable. "You're welcome," Jiang Lu grinned. Then leaned closer to Qin Feimu and reached out to hold his little hand. "Is he called Miu Miu?" Tang Wanna nodded. "Yes, his nickname is Miu Miu, and his formal name is Qin Feimu," in the nanny's arms. Qin Feimu opened his dark, bright eyes wide and looked at the person he was meeting for the first time. Suddenly, he curved the corners of his mouth and smiled at Jiang Lu. Both Tang Wanna and Jiang Lu were momentarily stunned by this scene. Jiang Lu also smiled at Qin Feimu and said, "It seems little Miu Miu really likes his honorary uncle." As he spoke, he pulled a large red envelope from his pocket and tucked it into Qin Feimu's arms, then said to him, "Your mom said the gift I gave was too tacky, so let's just go all the way with the tackiness then." Tang Wanna wanted to return the red envelope. "What are you doing? You already gave a gift. Why are you still giving a red envelope?" "The red envelope was prepared long ago. It was always meant to be given," Jiang Lu said matter-of-factly, his gaze still fixed on Qin Feimu as he played with the baby. After a while, he saw Qin Hao enter through the banquet hall's main door. He glanced at his watch. It was getting late. "All right, I should head back now." Jiang Lu turned to Tang Wanna and said. Tang Wanna thought about how she had asked him earlier if he had eaten, but he hadn't answered, so she continued, "Did you have dinner or not? Should I ask the hotel to make you a bowl of noodles? Why didn't you come earlier with Aunt Jiang?" "I already had a big meal outside. Who would still be without food at this late hour?" Jiang Lu replied. Just then, Qin Hao had already walked up to them. Tang Wanna spotted Qin Hao and bounced over to take his hand, telling him about Jiang Lu coming to deliver a gift. She didn't know that the two had already met downstairs. Qin Hao looked at her affectionately, smiled, and nodded. "Yes, we ran into each other downstairs earlier." As he spoke, he glanced at Jiang Lu. Jiang Lu also smiled and nodded. "Yes, I met the senior downstairs earlier. He was seeing off guests, so he told me to come up first." Tang Wanna had a look of sudden realization. After Qin Hao arrived, Jiang Lu didn't stay any longer. He greeted the two and then left. Qin Hao watched his departing figure, then turned to Tang Wanna and said, "Let's go find Mom and Dad." "Okay," Tang Wanna replied with a smile. Then turned to glance in the direction Jiang Lu had left before looking back at Qin Hao with a silly grin. "What's wrong?" Qin Hao asked. "Nothing. I just think my husband is really handsome." Tang Wanna rarely praised Qin Hao so directly. Qin Hao suddenly stopped walking, cupped the back of her head, and kissed her deeply. He didn't let go until he felt her legs go weak, then whispered hoarsely in her ear, "Don't flirt with your husband in public from now on." Tang Wanna's legs were so weak she could barely stand, clutching Qin Hao's arm tightly as she nodded vigorously. She didn't dare do it again. Most of the other guests had already left. There were many business partners present, so Mo Ziyi, Ji Fan, and Lu Yang helped see them off. After the guests were gone, the three of them also headed back. Tang Chen and Lin Shu's family had left earlier. Since old Master Tang was with them and they had 3 young children, they couldn't stay too long. After dinner and the performances, Tang Chen took his family home first. The 2 little ones, Lin Yuqing and Lin Yunuo, were having a great time playing with several children of similar age who had come to the full moon banquet. When it was time to leave, they were reluctant to go and insisted that Tang Chen exchange phone numbers with their new friends before finally saying goodbye. Qin Hao and Tang Wanna went to the hotel room reserved for storing gifts. Qin's parents and Tang's parents had been busy organizing the items, while Qin Qing helped move all the gifts from the guests into the car. Xiao Junhan also joined in to help. By the time Qin Hao and the others arrived, most of the moving was already done. After everything was packed and organized, Qin Hao and his family also took the star of the day, Qin Feimu, and headed home. The most sensational part of the full moon banquet was actually the dance performance by Qin Hao, Tang Chen, and the others. Many people recorded videos and uploaded them online, causing a buzz that trended that evening. No one had expected the presidents of JK Group to be such skilled dancers, and so handsome at that. Qin Hao completely stole the spotlight from his own son. On the way back, the nanny took the baby and rode with Qin's parents, saying it was to let Qin Hao and Wanna have a night to themselves while they took care of the child. Tang Wanna sat in the passenger seat, chattering excitedly about the online comments and the amusing moments involving Qin Feimu that evening. She mentioned how Qin Hao had been busy socializing and performing and hadn't spent much time with their son. Now, listening to his wife's vivid descriptions, he was thoroughly engrossed. Looking at the person beside him, who once toddled and babbled as a little child following him around, now his wife and the mother of his child. That sense of true fulfillment made him feel like the happiest person in the world. Qin Hao listened attentively to Tang Wanna, smiling all along without saying a word. It wasn't until Tang Wanna had been talking the whole way that she belatedly realized her third brother hadn't spoken much today. "Honey, why aren't you saying anything today?" Tang Wanna asked. The car stopped at the entrance of the Qin family villa. Qin Hao turned to look at Tang Wanna and said, "Listening to you talk makes me very happy." Tang Wanna gave third brother a coquettish glance and prepared to open the car door to get out, but Qin Hao called out to her, "Honey, what's wrong?" Tang Wanna paused her movement and turned back to look at him. Thank you for loving me, and thank you for giving birth to Miu Miu. I will love you even more than you love me." Qin Hao's sudden confession made Tang Wanna a little shy, seemingly unable to think of a better response. She turned around, leaned in, and planted a kiss on Qin Hao's handsome thin lips. Then, she opened the car door and hopped out of the car, leaving Qin Hao stunned in the car. He watched her running back home and broke into a wide grin. That person was his entire world. Chapter 535, trending on hot searches. The dance performance by several presidents of the JK Group at Qin Feimu's full moon banquet dominated the hot searches for several days, even making headlines in the financial section. Initially, netizens were only somewhat familiar with Tang Chen's family, but after this event, Qin Hao, Mo Ziyi, Ji Fengfan, and Lu Yang were all dug up by netizens. Just like celebrities, each of them gathered a considerable number of fans, with some female fans even leaving comments saying, "What to do? I like all 5, I can't choose." Another female fan boldly replied to this still hesitant fan, "Children make choices, adults want them all, instantly." Want all 5 shot to the top of the hot search list. Not only did female fans line up in the replies saying want them all, but many male fans also joined the ranks. Some bold individuals even directly analyzed, President Tang and President Qin are already married with children, but there are still 3 single and unmarried ones. Sisters. Charge ahead. The online buzz during those days was simply off the charts. The program planner from the JK Entertainment department then approached Ji Fengfan with the idea of inviting Qin Hao and Tang Wanna to participate in a financial interview program, the same one Tang Chen had previously attended with Lin Shu, taking advantage of the current online hype. This episode was expected to achieve record-high viewership ratings. Ji Fengfan stroked his chin and pondered seriously, although he didn't lack achievements in this area, as a businessman. Maximizing benefits was naturally the best outcome. The only question was whether third brother and Wanna would be willing. When Qin Hao received the call from Ji Fengfan, he didn't immediately refuse. He was familiar with that financial program. In the past, they had all taken turns appearing on it. After all, it was their own show, so there was no reason not to support it. The reason he hesitated now was because he wanted to bring Wanna along, and he wasn't sure if she would be interested. Unexpectedly, after he mentioned it to Wanna, the little girl seemed quite excited and looking forward to it. "Honey, are we going to be on TV?" Tang Wanna asked, her eyes sparkling. Qin Hao smiled and nodded. "Yes, do you want to go? It's okay if you don't want to." Tang Wanna tugged on Qin Hao's sleeve, looking quite excited. "Can I go? I've never been on TV before. What do I need to prepare? Since it's a financial program, will they ask some economic questions?" Qin Hao smiled gently and replied, "You don't need to prepare anything, just follow my lead." Seeing Tang Wanna's curious expression, it was clear she was willing to go on the program with him. That same day, Qin Hao called Ji Fengfan to make the arrangements. On the day of the program, both mothers were even more excited than Tang Wanna. Qin's mother directly asked Qin Qing to arrange for a professional styling and makeup team, who usually worked with A-list celebrities, to come to their home and get Tang Wanna ready. Tang Wanna herself thought it was too exaggerated. It felt as grand as her wedding day. Qin Qing stood by watching her put on makeup and said with a smile, "This is going to be on TV, everyone will see it, of course. You have to make your look stunning and outshine all the other girls. Now that you mention it, I'm starting to feel a bit nervous." Tang Wanna said with a smile, "Don't be nervous, don't be nervous, it's all among friends. And besides, I'll be there with you. I was just talking nonsense earlier." Qin Qing quickly reassured her upon hearing that Wanna was feeling nervous. Tang Wanna smiled as she looked at her reflection in the mirror, thinking about how she would soon be appearing on TV with her third brother. Despite everything, she couldn't help but feel nervous. At first, it was really just out of curiosity, and also because she wanted to stand side by side with her third brother, to be on equal footing with him. That's why she wanted to go together. When the day finally arrived, saying she wasn't nervous would be a lie. Her palms were already starting to sweat. Tang Wanna's hair was gently tied back, giving off an elegant yet relaxed vibe. The stylist had chosen a little black dress that matched her temperament, making her look both playful and adorable, highlighting her unique charm. Her makeup was fresh and refined, and paired with her fair skin. The black dress made her glow even brighter. The stark contrast between black and white created a striking visual impact. Qin Qing, watching from the side, couldn't help but exclaim, "Our Wanna is so fair-skinned, so beautiful, I'm even a little smitten." Tang Wanna lowered her head shyly, her cheeks slightly flushed. "It's not that exaggerated," she said. "You'll know if I'm exaggerating when you ask my brother later," Qin Qing said while taking photos of her with her phone. After everything was done, Qin Qing held her hand and walked out of the room. Qin Hao had already changed into a suit and was waiting at the door. The moment the room door opened, Qin Hao looked up and saw Tang Wanna walking towards him. She had never dressed like this before, and Qin Hao was also stunned, standing there in awe. Tang Wanna slowly walked towards him, looking at Qin Hao with a smile, and asked in a low voice, "Honey, do I look good?" Qin Hao took her hand, leaned close to her ear, and whispered, "You're so beautiful that I don't even want to take you with me. What should we do? How about we just not go?" At that moment, Qin Hao selfishly wanted to hide her away. He only wanted to see his wife's stunning beauty all by himself. Tang Wanna was stunned by his serious tone. "This doesn't seem very appropriate." Qin Hao let out a slight sigh and said with a hint of regret, "I shouldn't have asked Qing Qing to call the stylist." Tang Wanna tugged at him, smiling playfully as she pretended to ask, "How about, I go change into another outfit?" Qin Hao stopped walking and looked at her. "I think that would be fine." Tang Wanna broke free from his hand and quickly ran down the stairs. She had just said it casually. There was no time to change clothes and redo her look. Qin Hao pursed his lips and followed her downstairs. Both sets of parents and Qin Qing stood smiling at the door. Qin's mother was holding little Miu Miu in her arms, and the whole family saw them off as they left. Qin Hao drove himself to the JK headquarters, the studio for the financial program. Ji Fengfan was also there. When he saw Qin Hao and Tang Wanna walk in, he smiled and said to them, "Everything is ready. You can go in now." Tang Wanna's hand, which was being held by Qin Hao, suddenly stiffened. Sensing her tension, Qin Hao gave her hand a firm squeeze, turned to her, and said, "It's okay. I'm here with you. Just sit by the side, answer if you feel like it, and don't if you don't want to." Ji Fengfan, standing nearby, chimed in, "It's all right, Wanna, it's similar to the interviews with Big Brother and sister-in-law, just among our own people." Tang Wanna smiled and nodded, It seemed her heartbeat had calmed down a bit, and she wasn't as nervous anymore. Qin Hao led her into the studio, where some audience members had already taken their seats in advance. The host was also in position. The show was broadcast live and started promptly at 7:30 p.m., Chapter 536. On the show, financial programs can't jump straight into discussing the couple right from the start, so the initial part consisted of a conventional interview. The host's questions were quite professional, and due to the program's strong expertise, it has always enjoyed high ratings, comparable to entertainment shows. Qin Hao sat beside Tang Wanna, holding her hand the entire time, answering the host's questions with composure and confidence. After the professional questions were mostly finished, the latter half of the conversation began to shift. The host started steering the topic toward Tang Wanna, since they had been introduced as a couple at the beginning. Both the live stream audience and TV viewers were eagerly waiting to hear about their love story. The host asked, "Mr. Qin, we understand that you and your wife grew up together as childhood sweethearts. Our audience is very curious about your love story. Could you share some details with everyone?" Qin Hao and Tang Wanna turned their heads toward each other with perfect, exchanging a knowing smile. Qin Hao's smile caused quite a stir both at the and in the live stream. They immediately erupted in screams, while the live chat was flooded with comments like, "So handsome." Qin Hao had been on this show before, but he was always serious, as if just completing a task. He would leave immediately after the interview without staying a moment longer. Even at the company, he rarely smiled. Though he was gentle and refined, he came across as somewhat aloof, making people feel like there was an immense distance between them. So, this smile not only stunned the audience and netizens, but even the professional host who had interviewed him several times was taken aback. The host, being the closest, saw it most clearly. This smile left her completely bewildered. Fortunately, with strong professional skills, I quickly adjusted my state and joked, "This position really isn't very friendly. I probably won't need dinner tonight. I'm already full from all the sweet affection between President Qin and his wife." The crowd at the scene burst into laughter. The host continued with the previous question, asking about their dating history and who pursued whom first. Qin Hao was the first to answer, saying, "I pursued my wife first." As he spoke, his gaze remained fixed on Tang Wanna. Noticing a strand of her hair had fallen loose, he naturally reached out and tucked it behind her ear. Tang Wanna felt a bit embarrassed by his gesture, her ears turning slightly red as she muttered under her breath, "Clearly, I was the one who pursued first." The host was taken aback for a moment, cleared his throat lightly, and said with a smile, "It seems both President Qin and Mrs. Qin believe they were the proactive one in the relationship." After the host finished speaking, Qin Hao took the initiative to say, "Indeed, I was the one who confessed first." Tang Wanna thought about it carefully and realized that was indeed the case. This time, she didn't argue back but nodded in agreement with a smile, giving off a sense of a harmonious couple where the wife supports her husband. When the topic turned to how they had both misunderstood that the other person liked someone else, the host remarked, "President Qin and Mrs. Qin were truly destined to be together, otherwise, it would have been such a pity to miss each other. And we wouldn't have been able to witness this fairytale romance between a talented man and a beautiful woman. Qin Hao looked affectionately at Tang Wanna. The silly little girl was smiling foolishly back at him. He turned to face the camera and said, "It wouldn't be a missed opportunity. Even if it weren't her, there wouldn't be anyone else." The meaning was clear. If it weren't Tang Wanna, there wouldn't be anyone else for him either. He might have remained alone forever. Hearing Qin Hao's words, Tang Wanna felt inexplicably moved. She understood what he meant. And she felt exactly the same way. Tang Wanna quickly followed Qin Hao and said, "Me too." The two exchanged another knowing smile. The number of viewers in the live stream surged to its peak at that moment. The host felt she had witnessed every smile Qin Hao had to offer that night. After the show aired, netizens urged Qin Hao and Tang Wanna to open Weibo accounts to share some perks with their fans. Qin Hao already had a verified account, so everyone quickly found his Weibo. The comments under his most recent post, which shared JK Group's news, rapidly multiplied, instantly overwhelming the page. That night, Qin Hao used his own account for the first time to actively post a personal message and tagged Tang Wanna. The accompanying picture showed the small hands of their family of three clasped together. He wrote, "In the abyss of lips and teeth, between the brows and eyes, I love you year after year." It wasn't until the next day that Tang Wanna belatedly realized her Weibo follow count had skyrocketed overnight and was still rising every minute. She had registered her Weibo account a long time ago and occasionally posted about little amusing moments in her life, sometimes a scenic photo, sometimes a kitten she encountered on the street, and occasionally complaints about the hardships of studying or the busyness of work after she started working. In short, it was very real, trivial, and ordinary. Her third brother had known about this account since she first registered it because she had just started high school back then and wanted to join in after seeing everyone else using it. She even asked her third brother to help her set up the account. Her Weibo username was WNA, and her profile picture was a very childish and cute cartoon girl. She never expected that her third brother would post on Weibo and tag her. She noticed that comments had been pouring in since his very first post. Tang Wanna's first reaction was, "Oh no," her image was completely ruined. The content she had posted before was so childish, especially the posts from her school days. Even she found many of them utterly boring. But by now, it was already too late to delete anything. Qin Hao walked into the room and saw his wife sitting on the bed with a pout, looking somewhat upset. "What's wrong? Who bullied our Wanna?" Qin Hao asked with a smirk. Tang Wanna looked up at him. "It's you who bullied me." Qin Hao smiled and walked over to sit on the edge of the bed, asking patiently, "Then tell me, how did I bully you? Why didn't you tell me before posting on Weibo? You even tagged me. My Weibo is full of random stuff, most of it from my school days." "How childish," Tang Wanna said with a hint of complaint. "So that's what this is about." Qin Hao reached out and patted her head. "What's childish about it? Everyone is praising you, saying how cute and genuine you are, after waking up this morning." Qin Hao had already read many comments from netizens, and almost all of them were complimenting his wife, which put his mind at ease. Tang Wanna looked up at him with a silly expression and asked, "Really, you read all of them?" Qin Hao nodded and walked over to the bedside. Then, while Tang Wanna wasn't paying attention, he stole a quick kiss on her pouting lips. This made Tang Wanna playfully slap his shoulder in mock annoyance. "Where is Miu Miu?" Tang Wanna asked. "Mom and the others took her out to play," Qin Hao said. Tang Wanna scrolled through the comments on her phone, giggling to herself when she came across funny ones. Qin Hao held one of her hands as they sat on the edge of the bed, gently stroking it. Life couldn't be more peaceful than this. Chapter 537. Cece's wedding date is set. After Chen Cece moved in with Lin Muyao, the two unexpectedly discovered that their life rhythms and habits were quite similar. For instance, both had a slight tendency toward obsessive compulsiveness, preferring to keep things neatly organized. Both enjoyed taking a walk after meals, and both tended to become deeply absorbed in their work, showing a bit of a workaholic streak. After the Spring Festival, Lin Muyao successfully proposed to Chen Cece at the company's appreciation banquet, and their wedding was soon put on the agenda. the two began preparing for the wedding step by step. First, they arranged a meeting between both sets of parents. To show their respect for Chen Cixi, Lin Muyao's parents personally traveled from Jiangcheng to Yunshi in early March, bringing betrothal gifts to visit teacher Chen. Chen Cixi and Lin Muyao accompanied them on the trip. Now that the two had officially settled down, both sets of parents were very happy. The betrothal gifts given by Lin Muyao's parents were not kept by teacher Chen. She directly gave them to her daughter and future son-in-law. She also gave them the dowry she had prepared for her daughter over the years. The first meeting between the two families was joyful and extremely heartwarming. In the small courtyard of Chen Cixi's home, a simple table of home-cooked dishes was laid out, all prepared by teacher Chen herself. Lin's mother also helped with washing and preparing the vegetables, just like a familiar family. Originally, Chen Cixi and Lin Muyao had planned to have their first meal together at a restaurant that evening, but Lin's mother and father strongly insisted on eating at home, saying they were not outsiders. Upon hearing this, teacher Chen happily agreed, "Then let's eat at home, your mother's cooking is quite good." So early in the morning, she went to the market and bought a lot of groceries. By the time Chen Cixi and Lin Muyao brought Lin's mother and father back from the airport by taxi, teacher Chen was still busy preparing the dishes. For the 5 of them, she cooked a full table of food, far more than they could finish. Lin's mother and father couldn't stop praising teacher Chen's cooking. As country folks, they didn't know how to say fancy words and just kept repeating, "It's really delicious." That evening, Chen Cixi slept in the same room as teacher Chen. The room previously occupied by Lin Muyao was left for Lin's father and mother, while Chen Cixi's own room was given to Lin Muyao to sleep in. The mother and daughter lay in bed, neither feeling particularly sleepy, and they began to chat. Chen Cixi sighed with emotion. "Mom, it feels like it's been a long time since we last slept in the same bed." Chen Cixi had been sleeping alone since elementary school. In the past, she would only squeeze in with her mother when relatives or friends came to stay during holidays or special occasions. Looking back, it seemed like many years had passed since she last lay in bed with her mother like this. As if returning to her childhood, Chen Cixi hugged teacher Chen's arm and, in a rare moment of affection, said, "Mom, you must be tired today, preparing so many dishes." Teacher Chen lay flat on her back, smiling as she looked at the ceiling of the old house. "Silly child, why would I be tired? As a mother, I feel at ease knowing you've found a husband who treats you well. Mom, don't worry. I will definitely live a very happy life." Chen Cixi turned her head and said to teacher Chen, Mom believes that too. Ayaro's parents seem very nice, but life is a matter for two people. Once you become a family, you must learn to understand and trust each other. Only then can a marriage last long. In this regard, I can't offer you much advice, as life is something you have to live out yourself." Teacher Chen added a few words of advice. "Mom, I understand," Chen Cixi replied to her mother. "You've always been more mature than your peers since you were little, and that's also my regret, not letting you experience a more carefree and happy childhood." Mrs. Chen often felt a bit regretful. "Mom, why bring that up? I think I've always been very happy, especially being able to be your daughter. It's my honor," Chen Cixi said, holding her mother's arm. Mrs. Chen laughed. "Being your mother is my honor too, so I believe you'll handle married life very well." "Yes, I will, Mom," Chen Cixi replied softly, her tone unusually serious. Mother and daughter hadn't had a good chat together for a long time. They talked about all sorts of things and didn't fall asleep until the early hours of the morning. After delivering the betrothal gifts, they held a simple engagement ceremony in Yun City before returning to Jiangcheng. The two families discussed the wedding arrangements and set the date for October 1st, with just under half a year left. Lin Muyao's newly purchased house hadn't been handed over yet. Neither of them planned to wait for the new house. Instead, they decided to renovate and tidy up the small apartment they currently lived in to serve as their marital home. Once the wedding date was set, their lives became increasingly busy, taking wedding photos, booking the wedding venue, arranging decorations, purchasing items. Everything needed to be prepared, no matter how busy they were. The two always made time to discuss and finalize these matters together, Even for the smallest details, Lin Muyao would ask for Chen Cici's opinion. If Chen Cici had even a slight suggestion, Lin Muyao would immediately make adjustments based on her ideas. Through this, Chen Cici felt the utmost respect and affection from Lin Muyao. After learning that the couple had set their wedding date, Lin Shu began designing the wedding dress for Chen Cici. Fortunately, with nearly half a year to go, she didn't need to rush and could work on it bit by bit in her spare time, as there was plenty of time. When she found out they were planning to renovate their house, she immediately suggested they move into Xinjiang Garden temporarily. Originally, Lin Muyao and Chen Cici had considered renting a place near the studio as a temporary solution, but upon hearing this, Lin Shu insisted they move into her place. She said to Chen Cici, "Xinjiang Garden isn't far from the studio, and the transportation is convenient. Why bother looking for another place? It's such a hassle, and that apartment is just sitting empty anyway." "Thank you, Sister Xiaoshu." Chen Cici expressed her gratitude sincerely. "Why say thank you? You're Cheng Cheng and Wonuo's godmother after all. I could just give you the house, but the old one isn't suitable," Lin Shu said with a smile. The real estate agent was already handling the procedures for the wedding gift she had prepared for Chen Cici. When she contacted the agent, she found out that the neighborhood was a hot property. All the new units had been snapped up as soon as they were released, so she had been asking the agent to keep an eye out for a unit that someone had bought but never lived in and was now reselling. Surprisingly, she managed to get one. When the agent called her, she immediately confirmed the purchase, planning to take Chen Cici to sign the papers later and give her a surprise. So when Lin Muyao's apartment was being renovated, they temporarily moved to Xinjiang Garden. After Tang Yuan turned 3 months old, Lin Shu gradually resumed work, completing and delivering the accumulated orders one by one. Chen Cici, busy preparing for her wedding, had trained Xiao Wei to handle many of her tasks. After discussing with Chen Cici, Lin Shu promoted Xiao Wei and gave her a raise, which thrilled her so much that she raised her hand and vowed to work at the studio forever. Her earnest expression made Lin Shu and Chen Cici burst into laughter. Lin Shu said with a smile, "All right, then let's work together until the end of time." Chapter 538, Cici and Ayao's wedding. On October 1st, Chen Cici and Lin Muyao's wedding was held as scheduled. The wedding took place at the resort developed by Lin Muyao's company, located near Lin Shu and Lin Muyao's hometown. When it first opened, everyone had gone there to have fun together. Now, the entire development has been completed, and it has become even more beautiful and comfortable than when they visited before, making it a local tourism and vacation landmark. The outdoor lawn wedding was very innovative, a decision made jointly by Chen Cici and Lin Muyao after discussion. Since both wanted a relaxed and simple wedding ceremony, they decided on a lawn wedding with a buffet-style reception. Lin Muyao had many relatives and friends from his hometown attending, and since it was the National Day holiday, both adults and children were off, so everyone had time. That day, the lawn was filled with children running and playing. Next to the wedding lawn was a children's playground, which was reserved for the day and open for free to all wedding guests. The children at the wedding were overjoyed, and the entire venue was filled with their laughter and cheerful voices. Chen Cici had been living in Jiangcheng since her university days, and over the years, she had many classmates and friends who were invited to the wedding. Although only her closest family members came from her hometown in Yun City, the number of guests on the bride's side was no fewer than those on the groom's side. Before the wedding in Jiangcheng, the couple also held a small wedding ceremony in Yun City, mainly to entertain Chen Cici's family and friends. After all, not everyone would be willing to go through the trouble of traveling to Jiangcheng, so, after discussing with Chen Cici's father, they decided to host a small wedding banquet in Yun City as well. Although the wedding banquet in Yun City was small, the rituals and ceremonies were very meticulous, following a very traditional Chinese wedding style. Lin Muyao and Chen Cici wore traditional Shoha attire and performed the bowing to heaven and earth ceremony in the ancestral hall of Chen Cici's village. The evening banquet was held in the large courtyard outside the ancestral hall, with almost the entire village coming to help. The chef was Chen Cici's uncle, who runs a small restaurant in the town and had specially closed his shop for the day to assist. Eldest aunt was busy attending to the guests with several other aunts. And the whole family had smiles on their faces. Chen Cece, dressed in a traditional Shoher wedding outfit, sat on the bed in her room. The room had been decorated by Teacher Chen before they arrived, with large double happiness characters pasted on the door and windows. The bed sheets and duvet covers had been replaced with bright red ones, and above the headboard hung a large wedding photo of her and brother Yao. She had previously sent the digital copies to her mother, who had them printed and hung up. When Chen Cece returned, she saw a completely transformed room. She hadn't known before coming back that Teacher Chen had specifically redecorated and meticulously arranged the room. The wedding photo hung above the headboard was one she had personally selected and printed to place there as well. Chen Cece looked at the wedding photo with a smile, silently marveling at the unspoken understanding between her and her mother. The room was also filled with red and gold balloons, and on the bed were the words, "May you have a child soon," spelled out with longans, peanuts, red dates, and lotus seeds. It was a bit cliched, yet deeply touching, the kind of meticulous love a mother has for her daughter, displayed in its entirety. Chen Cece sat on the edge of the bed as Teacher Chen came in holding a bowl of lotus seed soup, telling her to have some to settle her stomach first. Later, she would need to go toast the guests, and the bride and groom would eat later. Chen Cece took the lotus seed soup and quickly finished it. "Mom, you've worked hard." Those words made Teacher Chen's eyes well up, seeing her daughter in the traditional Shoher dress at this moment. She finally had to admit that her daughter was really getting married. Teacher Chen turned her head away so that Chen Cece wouldn't see her reddened eyes. "It wasn't hard work. Your aunt and the others all came to help. There are many things I can't remember on my own. I'm getting old." Teacher Chen sighed. Chen Cece reached out and hugged her mother. "Mom, come live with me in Jiangcheng from now on. I'm worried about you since you're getting older." Teacher Chen didn't agree right away. "I was born and raised here. I definitely wouldn't get used to living in Jiangcheng. Besides, your father is still here. I have to stay and watch over things." But Chen Cece wanted to persuade her further. But Teacher Chen interrupted her. "Oh, Mom can still eat and move around on her own. There's plenty of time. When you have a child, I can come help take care of them." "Okay." Chen Cece smiled happily. Through the window, Chen Cece saw brother Yao busy in the yard with her uncles and other relatives, receiving guests. Her heart felt warm, and she considered herself very fortunate. For their wedding in Jiangcheng, all 5 members of Lin Shu's family attended. Lin Yuqing and Lin Yunuo served as the flower children, dressed adorably like a little prince and princess. On the eve of the wedding, Lin Shu mysteriously invited Chen Cece out and took her to sign the paperwork for the transfer of the house ownership. The moment Chen Cece found out, she was completely stunned. When she came to her senses, she absolutely refused to accept such an expensive congratulatory gift, a house worth over 10 million. How could she possibly accept it? "Xiao Shu, I know your intentions, and I know you're thinking of me, but I really can't accept this. It's too valuable. There's no way I can sign this document," Chen Cece insisted, trying her best to decline. Lin Shu pretended to be angry and said, "If you know it's my heartfelt intention, then accept it. If you don't, I'll be upset. Don't worry about how much it's worth. As long as it's useful, that's what matters. I really can't accept it. This isn't a matter of a few $1,000s. It's truly too valuable." Chen Cece persisted in her refusal, and the two of them remained at a standstill. Finally, Lin Shu directly took her ID card and went to handle the procedures. Chen Cece said helplessly, "Sister Xiaoshu, I really can't accept this house. You have to accept it. I'm your family. And this is the confidence your family gives you. Although, from what I know of Brother Yao, he's basically not the type to cheat. This is the assurance I'm giving you," Lin Shu said seriously. Then playfully winked. "Besides, it was a Chen's suggestion, so don't feel awkward about it." Chen Cece hugged Lin Shu. "Sister Xiaoshu, thank you." At the wedding, Tang Wana and Qin Hao also attended. Since Chen Cece had been to Tang Wana's wedding before, it was only natural for them to return the courtesy. Chen Cece didn't feel comfortable actively inviting the others, But everyone knew they were holding a wedding and didn't mind the formalities. Both the eldest and third brothers attended, and it wasn't as if Chen Sisi and Lin Muyao were strangers. They had met several times before, so everyone came uninvited, all taking the initiative to send congratulatory gifts and join the celebration together. Especially after hearing that the wedding would be held at the resort, everyone was quite looking forward to it. They went to the resort a day early and settled in, already planning to take a vacation after the wedding. Chapter 539. The Grand Finale, Part 1. In the evening at the resort, the sunset was as red as blood, a gentle breeze blew, and the weather was extremely comfortable. The air was filled with the fragrance of roses, making everyone feel refreshed and joyful. Chen Sisi changed into the wedding dress personally designed for her by Lin Shu. The long train of the dress trailed on the ground, with Lin Yuqing and Lin Yunuo, the two little flower children, following behind her long train. They carried small flower baskets filled with rose petals. "Godmother looks so beautiful today," Lin Yunuo said to her brother. Because Godmother is the bride today," Lin Yuqing answered his sister. The two little flower girls followed the bride as she slowly walked toward the groom waiting at the end. Chen Sisi's gaze remained fixed on Lin Muyao, who stood not far away. She saw him holding a bouquet of roses, looking back at her as if he were her prince waiting for her to approach. The two of them were about to join hands and spend every day of their future together. The short walk of just a few minutes felt to Chen Sisi as if she had walked through an entire lifetime. By the time she reached Lin Muyao, her eyes were already slightly red. Lin Muyao knelt on one knee and put the ring on Chen Sisi's finger, then stood up and whispered in her ear, "Wife, you look so beautiful today." Chen Sisi replied, "Husband, you look very handsome today too," amid the cheers. The bride and groom kissed, while Lin Yuqing and Lin Yunuo took the perfect moment to toss the rose petals they were holding into the air. Both teacher Chen and Lin Muyao's parents had tears in their eyes as they watched from below. Chen Sisi and Lin Muyao held each other as they looked at their friends and family below the stage, smiling happily. This was the happiness they had both dreamed of. Watching the newlyweds on stage, Lin Shu couldn't help but tear up. Tang Yichen held Tang Yuan with one arm and pulled his wife into his embrace with the other. Without a single word, they could feel each other's emotions. Qin Hao and Tang Wanna pushed Qin Feimu in a stroller, standing side by side with their fingers intertwined as they exchanged a knowing smile. Mo Zedi's face showed little expression, and it was unclear what he was thinking. Lu Yang stood beside him, turned his head, and asked, "Second brother, you're not thinking about getting married too, are you?" Mo Zi lifted his eyes and gave Lu Yang a calm glance, not answering him. Instead, his mind involuntarily drifted back to the girl he had been searching for all along. Jifeng Fan came alone today. Xia Qingqian has been busy filming recently and didn't have time to come during the day. Secondly, with so many people at the wedding, her presence might steal the spotlight from the bride. Therefore, she planned to join everyone later after finishing tonight's filming. Jifeng Fan walked aside and sent her a WeChat message. "Jifeng Fan, is today's filming over?" The reply came quickly from the other end. "Xia Qingqian, not yet, we need to reshoot the previous scene. Has the wedding ceremony ended on your side?" Ji Fengfan, almost there, as if thinking of something. Ji Fengfan sent another message. "Ji Fengfan, call me when it's over, I'll come pick you up." Xia Qingqian replied immediately. "Xia Qingqian, no need, Qingqing is also on set, I'll go with her later." Ji Fengfan, as if not reassured, instructed, "Don't you two drive, let the driver bring you over, it's too late." Xia Qingqian, "Okay, I'm going to get back to work." Ji Fengfan looked at the chat page between the two of them, a slight smile curling at the corners of his mouth, clearly in a good mood. He turned and walked back to his previous spot. Lu Yang turned his head and saw him return, asking, "Fourth brother, where did you go?" "To the restroom. Why didn't you call me to go with you?" Jifeng Fan lifted his eyelids and glanced at Lu Yang expressionlessly, uttering one word, "Idiot." Lu Yang started yelling, "Fourth brother, what do you mean by that? What's so embarrassing about going to the bathroom together?" Jifeng Fan said calmly, "Going to the bathroom together isn't embarrassing, but you are." "Second brother, look, Fourth brother is personally attacking me. Unable to argue back, little Five Lu turned to Mosey for help. Mosey didn't say anything. Just curled his lips into a smile. Xiao Wu really is their little joy. As night fell, colorful lights lit up around the lawn, and several preset canopies were also illuminated. The tables were filled with various fruits, small cakes, snacks, and other treats. On the side of the lawn, the resort had prepared a barbecue, with a chef roasting a whole lamb and grilling skewers. Those who wanted to eat could simply go and help themselves. On the stage where the wedding ceremony had just taken place, soft piano music was now playing through the speakers. The melody was soothing, and many young people had already started dancing joyfully on the lawn. The bride and groom were pulled into the crowd, surrounded in the center. The children, holding hands, formed a large circle around the adults, running around them. It was an incredibly lively scene. Lin Shu and Tang Chen, along with Tang Wanna and Qin Hao, both couples with children, sat back under the canopy. They enjoyed some snacks, took care of the kids, and watched the lively festivities, feeling quite content. On the other side of the lawn are tiered camping tents, where relatives and friends attending the wedding who are staying overnight are accommodated. The tent floors are built with solid wood, making them sturdy and durable. Inside, there are bathrooms with separate wet and dry areas, air conditioning, refrigerators, and shower rooms. Some even have bathtubs, with particularly high-end amenities. In addition to single-level tents, there are also double-level ones, with beds and bathrooms upstairs. This area is a resort that Lin Muyao and his team just completed this year. Compared to the monotonous hotel accommodations, this place seems to offer a more immersive natural experience, allowing one to feel a sense of secluded freedom amidst the mountains and wilderness. Lin Shu and the others were once again amazed upon their arrival. The two little ones, Lin Yuqing and Lin Yunuo, were absolutely thrilled. They immediately went upstairs and claimed one bed each, saying they would sleep alone upstairs tonight. The tent roof can be opened by pulling back the curtain, allowing them to look up and see the moon and starry sky above. Truly breathtaking. The public areas also include a large swimming pool, a lakeside restaurant, a screening room, and a game room. There's even a fish pond for fishing, offering a wide variety of activities. Lin Shu had heard before that this project had been extremely popular since its launch this year. After seeing it in person, she felt it was truly perfect for a vacation, so much so that she wished she could live here every day. Little Tang Yuan and his younger brother Qin Feimu were both sitting in their strollers, eating small cakes and holding their milk bottles, looking absolutely adorable. Tang Chen and the others sat around the table under the canopy, chatting while they ate. Lu Yang ran off to play with Lin Yuqing and Lin Yunuo. Lin Shu watched as he held the hands of the two little ones, one on each side, staying near the barbecue area. Before long, Lin Yuqing came running over with a large bunch of freshly grilled lamb skewers, bringing food for everyone. Lin Yunuo followed her brother, also carrying a large bunch of grilled food. Lu Xiaowu shouted from behind them, "Don't take it all away, we won't have anything left to eat." This made everyone burst into laughter. Chapter 540, The Grand Finale, Part 2. Qin Qing and Xia Qingqian arrived at the resort around 9 p.m. Xia Qingqian's nanny car brought them both over and then left. After finishing today's shoot, their agent sister Manny, knowing she was going to see CEO G, gave her 2 days off. Xia Qingqian had already made plans to spend her 2 days off at the resort, relaxing properly. On the way to the resort, Qin Qing kept groaning when she found out Xia Qingqian had 2 days off. Because she herself only had 1 day off, that's just how the entertainment industry is. Those with real talent are bound to work extremely hard. It's no exaggeration to say they can fall asleep standing up. Sometimes, when there's a rush, going several days without lying down in a bed is common. Of course, they both understand that relying on genuine talent is what leads to long-term and far-reaching success. The driver parked the nanny car in the resort's parking lot. Although the streetlights were bright, after getting out of the car, the two of them still couldn't figure out which way to go to meet up with the others. Just as Xia Qingqian was about to call Ji Fengfan, her phone rang. It was Ji Fengfan calling. "Have you arrived?" Ji Fengfan's familiar deep voice came through the phone, and Xia Qingqiao couldn't help but smile as she replied, "Yes, we just got out of the car, I was about to call you. It seems a bit different from last time, I can't find the way. Where are you?" In the parking lot, Ji Fengfan immediately asked, "Let me check." Xia Qingqiao held the phone with one hand and walked outside. When she reached the entrance sign and saw it indicated parking area A, she said into the phone, "We're in parking area A." Ji Fengfan patiently waited for her response. After confirming the location, he said, "All right, just stay where you are, I'll come pick you up." He hung up the phone, and Qin Hao asked, "Is Qingqing coming along too?" "Yeah, I'll go pick them up. They're in parking area A and couldn't find their way over," Ji Fengfan said as he stood up, ready to head out. He casually grabbed his jacket and, after taking a couple of steps, turned back to take Lu Yang's jacket, which was hanging on the chair, as well. At this time, the night was getting colder, and the temperature in the suburbs would drop even lower by a few degrees. He was worried that Xia Qingqian wasn't wearing enough. And since Qingqing was also there, he brought 2 jackets along. Parking area A was actually right next to the lawn, just a 5 or 6 minute walk away, so Xia Qingqian felt like she had just hung up the phone when she saw Ji Fengfan approaching. Qingqing waved enthusiastically at him and shouted, "Fourth brother, we're over here." Ji Fengfan looked up and saw the 2 girls standing under the streetlight, each with a suitcase beside them. They were wearing thin clothes and spinning in place to keep warm. Ji Fengfan quickened his pace and walked over, handing them the coats he was carrying. "I knew you wouldn't bring jackets," he said. Xia Qingqian and Qingqing unceremoniously took the coats and put them on. Qingqing said with a smile, "Thank you, fourth brother. Qingqian and I came straight from the film set. We didn't even have dinner and only ate a piece of bread on the way. How could we have remembered to bring coats? But don't worry. We have them in our suitcases." Xia Qingqian also smiled. "I didn't expect the temperature here to be so much lower than in Jiangcheng." Ji Fengfan walked behind, pulling 2 suitcases. While Xia Qingqian and Qingqing walked arm in arm ahead, the streetlights stretched their 3 shadows long and far. Ji Fengfan watched Xia Qingqian's back, silently curling the corners of his mouth into a slight smile. After Ji Fengfan brought them to where everyone was sitting, he also took their suitcases back to the tent. Then he went to the barbecue area to get some freshly grilled skewers for them. When he returned, Lu Xiaowu, unafraid of trouble, teased, "Fourth brother. You've perked up since Qingqian arrived. You were sitting in the chair motionless earlier. I thought you'd fallen asleep. Turns out you were waiting for someone." Ji Fengfan kicked him lightly and said, "Looking for trouble?" Xia Qingqian lowered her head a bit embarrassed, pretending she hadn't heard, and quietly started eating the skewers. After Qingqing arrived, the atmosphere at the scene became much livelier. Previously, Lu Yang had been running around with the 2 little ones. But now that everyone was here, they all gathered around the table to drink, except for Tang Wanna and Lin Shu, the 2 mothers who were drinking juice. Everyone else raised their glasses. Chen Sisi and Lin Muyao took some time to come over and greet them, sitting and chatting for a while, thinking of that apartment. Chen Sisi deliberately raised her glass to toast Tang Chen and Lin Shu separately. "Sister Xiaoshu, President Tang, thank you," as she spoke. Chen Sisi's eyes turned slightly red. Lin Muyao also stood up and filled his glass. "Thank you, Xiaoshu, and thank you, President Tang." Tang Chen, rarely in a joking mood, said, "That's a premarital asset for Sisi. You see, all of us here are like her family." Everyone chimed in, saying they were all family, which moved Chen Sisi so much that she almost cried. "Got it." Lin Muyao hugged Chen Sisi into his arms and also laughed. Lin Shu asked if Aunt Chen had gone to rest. Chen Sisi said she had just returned. There weren't enough tent rooms, so the older guests were all accommodated in the resort's hotel guest rooms. As soon as Lin Shu arrived, she took Lei, brought Tang Chen, and the 2 little ones to meet Aunt Chen. They had only seen each other in photos and videos before, and now that Aunt Chen got to see Lei and the 2 little ones, she was overjoyed. Tang Chen knew that Aunt Chen had helped Lin Shu in the past, so he obediently stayed by Lin Shu's side, greeted her politely, and patiently waited for them to chat. In the end, Aunt Chen couldn't help but praise him, because of the two young children, Lei and Miu Miu. Everyone didn't drink for too long and dispersed around 10 o'clock. Lei, being a bit older, was happy as long as there was food. Miu Miu was also very well behaved and stayed cooperative the whole night without crying at all. Lin Yuqing and Lin Yunuo, after running around and getting tired, sat next to them and played with the two younger brothers, making them giggle with laughter. After the event ended, everyone went their separate ways. Some went back to rest, while others continued to stroll. The newlyweds, Chen Cixi and Lin Muyao, also returned to rest. Lin Shu and Tang Chen's family naturally went back to their tent to rest. Lei's eyes were fluttering open and shut, already on the verge of falling asleep. Only Lin Yuqing and Lin Yunuo, who had been playing wildly all day, were still full of energy. Tang Weina and Qin Hao, carrying Miu Miu, also headed back. The little one, Miu Miu, had played all day and was already fast asleep in his father's arms on the way home. On her way back to the tent, Qin Qing received a call from Xiao Junhan. The person on the other end questioned, "Where did you go? I didn't see you come out at the studio entrance. I left early to attend a wedding." Qin Qing replied, somewhat puzzled, "You're leaving? Why didn't you tell me?" Xiao Junhan raised his voice, "Why should I tell you?" Qin Qing blurted out. But before she could finish her sentence, the call had already been disconnected. How absurd! Qin Qing put away her phone and hummed a little tune as she walked toward her tent. Lu Yang and Mo Ziyi shared a tent, which also had 2 levels. Lu Xiaowu said he didn't want to sleep alone and insisted on pulling Mo Ziyi along. "Second brother, you used to sleep with me before." Mo Ziyi glared at him and said, "When have I ever slept with you? Didn't you always sleep at my place when you came back to Jiangcheng before?" "Of course, not in the same bed," Lu Yang said with a laugh. Mo Ziyi ignored him and continued walking forward. He didn't really care if Xiaowu wanted to share a tent. So be it. Lu Yang happily followed along. Xia Qingqian had been drinking, and her face was flushed. With a radiant smile, she pulled Ji Fengfan, saying she wanted to take a walk on the lawn. Ji Fengfan had originally intended to say it was getting late and they should head back to rest, but before he knew it, she had already started walking ahead. He quickly caught up, took her hand, and resignedly followed the overly excited, slightly tipsy person for a late-night stroll on the lawn. After walking for a while, Xia Qingqian suddenly plopped down on the grass, looked up at Ji Fengfan with a silly grin, and said, "Look, the moon is following me." Ji Fengfan scooped her up, muttering, "The grass is damp at night, get up quickly." Then, not wanting to bother arguing with a drunk, he hoisted her over his shoulder and headed back. Xia Qingqian felt dizzy, and her stomach churned, after holding it in for a long time. She rushed into the bathroom as soon as they entered the tent and vomited. Watching her vomit, someone's heart began to ache again. The lights in the tents went out one by one. The night was still long, and so were the days. Don't worry about the long road ahead, for those who walk together will never part. This holds true for both love and friendship. End of text. Extra Story 1. Eager to return home, Tang Chen had been on a business trip in Europe for almost 3 weeks. Finally, he had successfully wrapped up the company's largest overseas collaboration project of the year. Leaving the remaining follow-up tasks to Mo Ziyi, he immediately caught a flight back to Jiangcheng. Before boarding the plane, he had considered calling Lin Shu to let her know. However, when he checked the time, it was already midnight back home. Thinking it was too late, he decided not to inform her in advance and hurriedly boarded the flight back to the country. The plane arrived at Jiangcheng Airport a little after 7 p.m. Without stopping for dinner, he rushed straight home from the airport and arrived close to 9 p.m. They still live in the old house. Aunt Wang was overjoyed to see him pushing the door open so late, covered in dust, and was about to go upstairs to call Lin Shu when Tang Chen stopped her. "Aunt Wang, I'll go up myself," Tang Chen said, placing his luggage by the door and taking off his coat to hang it up. Aunt Wang nodded knowingly with a smile. It was obvious to everyone how well the young couple got along, and she understood that Tang Chen wanted to be the first to find Lin Shu herself. Instead, she asked if Tang Chen had eaten dinner. Tang Chen replied, "Aunt Wang, could you please help me cook a bowl of noodles? I'll come down to eat in a little while." All right, I'll go right away." Aunt Wang smiled and turned to head into the kitchen. Tang Chen hurriedly strode upstairs. Eager to see the person he had been missing, he first passed by the rooms of Lin Yuqing and Lin Yunuo, gently twisted open the door to Lin Yunuo's room, walked to the bedside, turned on the bedside lamp, and softly stroked his daughter whom he hadn't seen for over half a month. A gentle smile lifted the corners of his mouth, and his eyes were filled with tenderness. Tang Chen bent down and placed a light kiss on Lin Yunuo's forehead. Unexpectedly, the little one drowsily opened her eyes, looked at Tang Chen, and murmured, "Daddy, is that you?" Tang Chen nodded gently with a smile. "Yes, Daddy is back." Lin Yunuo immediately closed her eyes again, turned over, and continued to sleep. Tang Chen smiled lightly, turned off the desk lamp, and left the room, closing the door behind him. He then went to Lin Yuqing's room. As soon as he walked in and turned on the desk lamp, his son opened his eyes, sat up, and rubbed his eyes, as if unsure. He blinked several times before confirming that it was really his dad who had returned. He exclaimed joyfully, "Dad!" Tang Chen walked over and patted his son's head. "Dad, when did you get back?" "Just got back. Lie down and sleep. Dad is going to find Mom." Tang Chen watched Lin Yuqing lie down, tucked him in, turned off the light, and stepped out. Then he headed toward his own room. As he reached the door, he felt inexplicably excited. The door was slightly ajar, allowing him to see inside. The bedside lamp was on, casting a soft, warm glow. Under the gentle light, Lin Shu sat on a low stool beside the small bed, lightly patting Leilei's back. Her gaze was incredibly tender, and her lips moved with a smile, even standing outside the door. Tang Chen knew she was telling Leilei a bedtime story. The man standing outside the door looked utterly softened. The exhaustion from the long journey finally vanished completely after seeing his wife and child. In the room, Lin Shu saw that Leilei was asleep, covered him with the quilt, and then stood up from the low stool. Tang Chen pushed the door open and entered. Lin Shu turned around and immediately locked eyes with the person standing at the doorway. She froze for a moment. Then her expression shifted to immense joy as she ran toward Tang Chen, throwing herself into his arms. Tang Chen looked at the figure rushing toward him with a smile in his eyes. Cupping Lin Shu's buttocks with both hands and steadily catching and lifting her up, Lin Shu wrapped her arms around Tang Chen's neck, grinning with delight as she looked at the person before her. "Didn't you say it would take 2 or 3 more days to finish? How come you came back early?" Tang Chen carried her into the room, replying with a smile, "I finished my work early, so I came back ahead of time." "Why didn't you call me then? Have you had dinner yet? What would you like to eat?" "I'll go cook for you." Lin Shu struggled to get down. Noticing that Tang Chen looked somewhat haggard, she could tell he must have rushed on the road and guessed that he probably hadn't had dinner yet. Tang Chen held her tightly, unwilling to let go. "Aunt Wang is cooking noodles. Don't move, let me hold my wife for a while." He rested his head on Lin Shu's shoulder, lingering for a moment before lifting it, a smile playing on his lips as he looked at Lin Shu and asked, "Did you miss me?" Even though they already had 3 children, Lin Shu was still quite shy. Her face flushed slightly as she lowered her head and nestled into Tang Chen's embrace, refusing to say a word. Tang Chen continued to ask in a coquettish tone, "Honey, I miss you so much every night that I can't sleep. Do you miss me?" Lin Shu nodded gently and replied, "Amham." How could she not miss him? This time, Tang Chen had been away on a business trip for a long time. Even Cheng Cheng and Wonuo had been asking her every day recently when their dad would be back. Although they video chatted for a while every day, due to the time difference, she was worried about disturbing his work, so each time, they only talked briefly before hanging up. Originally, Tang Chen had said it would take another 2 or 3 days to finish and return, but he came back early. That kind of surprise was truly indescribable. A wave of intense longing surged in her heart all at once. Tang Chen exerted strength to lift Lin Shu upward, their foreheads pressed together, gazing at his wife's shy face. His heart softened with affection, and he asked in a husky voice, "What were you thinking?" Lin Shu, her face flushed, leaned in closer. Her rosy, soft lips met Tang Chen's, only for a brief moment before she pulled away. Tang Chen, with a smile playing on his lips, held her with one hand while the other cupped the back of her head, returning the kiss. They didn't part until both were breathless, leaning against each other, panting heavily as they listened to each other's racing heartbeats. Lin Shu urged Tang Chen to hurry downstairs for a meal. Tang Chen took one more look at Lei Lei before taking Lin Shu's hand and heading downstairs together. Aunt Wang had just finished cooking the noodles and brought them to the table. Lin Shu asked Aunt Wang to go rest first, not wanting to disturb the young couple. Aunt Wang set down the noodles and returned to her room. Only Lin Shu and Tang Chen remained in the restaurant. Tang Chen would take a bite of noodles, then turn his head to smile at Lin Shu, holding her hand tightly as if unwilling to let go. He quickly finished a bowl of noodles and eagerly pulled Lin Shu upstairs to their room. The two went to take a look at little Lei Lei by the small bed. The little one was still sleeping soundly and deeply, with a slight smile at the corner of her mouth. As if having a sweet dream, Tang Chen went to the bathroom to take a shower and told Lin Shu to sleep first. However, when he finished showering and came out, he found his wife still leaning against the headboard, waiting for him. He walked out wrapped in a towel, his upper body bare and not completely dried, with some water droplets trickling down the lines of his muscles. His hair, freshly blown dry, hung naturally, with his tempting physique and gentle face. Lin Shu felt too shy to look directly at him and pulled the covers up to hide inside. Tang Chen looked at her actions with adoration, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth as he walked to the bedside. In a low, husky voice, he asked, "Honey, were you waiting for me? Extra 2. A short absence makes the heart grow fonder. Lin Shu hid under the covers, her face flushed red like a boiled duck, feeling extremely embarrassed. Tang Chen gently sat down on the edge of the bed and reached out to pull the covers away, saying with a smile, "Honey, let's take the covers off first. Don't suffocate yourself." Lin Shu was indeed feeling quite stifled. She lifted the blanket, poked her head out, and took a breath of fresh air. Deliberately contradicting herself, she said, "I wasn't waiting for you at all, I just haven't fallen asleep yet." "Really, you weren't?" Tang Chen asked with a smile playing on his lips. His hands resting on either side of Lin Shu as he leaned over her. His voice was hoarse. Lin Shu blushed and pressed her lips together. Meeting Tang Chen's smiling gaze, she finally replied softly, "I was." Tang Chen's heart stirred. He slowly lowered his head, placing his first kiss on Lin Shu's forehead. Then, tenderly, he moved from her eyes and nose downward, finally lingering on her small, crimson lips. The kiss was lingering and tender, full of affection. Lin Shu also actively clung to him. The two, who hadn't seen each other for a long time, were instantly ignited, both feeling quite excited. Moreover, Lin Shu's rare initiative made Tang Chen's eyes turn crimson, as if he truly wanted to press her into his very being. That night felt exceptionally long, and both deeply experienced the joy of reunion after a short separation, which felt even sweeter than a honeymoon. The next morning, the exhausted pair still lay in bed, deeply asleep in each other's arms. The skin exposed to the air was tinged with pink and marked with various ambiguous traces. After waking up, little Lei Lei sat up on his small bed, quietly playing with the toy car he had brought to bed before falling asleep, neither crying nor making a fuss. When Lin Shu woke up and saw Lei Lei sitting on the small bed, she struggled to get up, feeling the movement of the person in his arms. The man behind tightened his embrace and murmured, "Sleep a little longer. You sleep a bit more. Lei Lei is awake. I'll go make his milk. Cheng Cheng and Nuo will be up soon too," Lin Shu said softly. Still preparing to get up, Tang Chen opened his eyes, turned to look at the crib, and saw Lei Lei already sitting up. The moment he turned, the little one happened to look up at him. Grinning widely, he stopped Lin Shu from getting up and said, "I'll make the milk. You sleep a bit longer today and get some proper rest." Tang Chen had just gotten out of bed and put on his clothes when a series of hurried footsteps approached from outside the door. Then, he heard his daughter's soft, milky voice, "Mom, Mom, I dreamed last night that Dad came back." Immediately after, the room door was pushed open from the outside, and a small figure rushed in like a gust of wind. The little girl froze. Staring wide-eyed at the person in the room as if she couldn't believe her eyes, she blinked hard, confirming it was really her dad, and then shouted loudly, Dad, before darting toward Tang-Chen. Tang-Chen smiled and scooped his daughter up into his arms. Lin Yunhuo pouted her little mouth and kissed him on the cheek, her joy written all over her face. Dad, when did you come back? Dad came back last night, and it was a bit late when he got back. You were all asleep. But Dad did go to your room to check on you. Tang-Chen explained softly to his daughter. I thought I was dreaming last night, Lin Yunhuo said with a smile. Then she tilted her head and looked toward the bed. Dad, hasn't Mom gotten up yet? Tang-Chen glanced at the bed and said with a smile. Mom was too tired yesterday and needs more rest. Was it because taking care of my brother was too tiring? Lin Yunhuo looked at her father with curious big eyes. Tang-Chen replied without changing his expression. Yes, so let's not disturb Mom today, okay? Dad will take you to school, okay? Lin Yunhuo nodded in agreement. Of course, they were happy to have their dad take them to school. Actually, Lei was mostly taken care of by the nanny during the day. But when it came to bedtime, Lin Shu couldn't bear to part with her, so she kept her by her side. Tang-Chen couldn't bear to see his wife work so hard. The father and daughter were talking when Lin Yucheng also got up and came to his parents' room. Lin Yunhuo saw her brother coming and happily shouted, Brother, Dad is back. Lin Yucheng nodded, his face showing unconcealed joy. Yes, I knew last night, when Tang-Chen went to his room last night. He was awake and didn't think he was dreaming like his sister did. That's why he came to find his dad as soon as he got up. Tang-Chen put down Lin Yunhuo and picked up Lei. All right. Let's go have breakfast first and let Mom rest properly. Then, she took the three children and left the room, heading downstairs. After they had all left, Lin Shu finally peeked out from under the covers. She hadn't had time to get dressed earlier and had to hide since the children were there. Originally, she had only intended to lie down for a little while longer and get up after the children left the house. Unexpectedly, she ended up falling asleep last night. She had indeed been so exhausted that she didn't even have the energy to take a bath. Someone had to carry her to wash. By the time she woke up again, it was almost noon. Lin Shu hurriedly got out of bed and went downstairs, only to find the house empty. Just as she was about to turn around to grab her phone and make a call, she heard a familiar voice from behind, like a spring breeze gently brushing over her heart. Darling, you're awake. Tang-Chen came in from outside and was now standing in the entryway. Lin Shu turned around and looked at the man who had shaved today, dressed in sportswear, standing there against the light, a slight smile curling at the corners of his lips. Lin Shu felt as if she had traveled back many years to the first time they met. Time had left few traces on him, instead adding a touch of mature charm. Lin Shu grinned and walked step by step toward Tang-Chen, finally stopping just inches away from him. Where have you been? Why is there no one at home? Where are Lei and Grandpa? Lei is playing in the park ahead with Grandpa and Uncle Chen. Aunt Wang went to the market, and I just came back from Grandpa's place. Tang-Chen replied with a smile. Why didn't you wake me up? It's so late already, Lin Shu said coquettishly. Tang-Chen curved the corners of his mouth, reached out to hold Lin Shu's hand, and led her toward the living room, saying, You were tired last night, so I wanted to let you rest a bit longer. Mentioning last night, Lin Shu's cheeks involuntarily flushed red again. She raised her small fist and lightly tapped Tang-Chen's chest. Tang-Chen took the opportunity to grasp her other hand, his eyes fixed intently on her. Lin Shu felt a bit embarrassed under his gaze and stammered, What is it? Is there something on my face? Tang-Chen shook his head with a smile. There's nothing on your face. It's just that my wife is truly beautiful. Lin Shu's face flushed all the way to the back of her ears. She buried her face in his chest, listening to his strong and steady heartbeat. Gradually, her own heartbeat began to synchronize with his, resonating at the same rhythm. What Tang-Chen actually thought to himself was that even after all these years, his wife was still the same shy young girl she had always been, through the passing years. You and I still see in each other the very same person we first laid eyes on. Thank you for reading. This novel has now come to an end. I appreciate your support and for following along. See you in the next story.